What's up, Tru Heel Heat? Tru Heel Heat.
What's up? Tru Heel Heat.
We are festive because it is Christmas, and I got on my jingle balls right on my nipple. Play with my jingle balls there. Grayson Waller going out there and pulling up Bret Hart on dumbass Braun Breakers Goldberg. After calling him out the entire night, Braun Breaker showed up at the end of the show as he revealed he was wearing a bulletproof vest and had a plate.
This is the person that should be overrated.
So, yeah, did anything like big happen? You know, it's a new year, first Tru Heel Heat of 2023. Nothing major happened in wrestling. Oh, wait, I got a text. Apparently Sasha Banks is in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada teamed up for the first time ever this week. Kenny and Will Ospreay just had one of the greatest matches of all time. And what? Vince McMahon is forced his way back into the WWE on the board of directors? Well, I guess we got a lot to talk about. This is Tru Heel Heat 207, first Tru Heel Heat of 2023. Let's get the intro and get to it. Hello. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom, SP3. We are live on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for Tru Heel Heat 207, the big clap back. We are going to be discussing the latest wrestling news, including Vince McMahon forcing his way back into WWE, rejoining the board of directors. Sasha Banks becomes Mercedes Mone as she debuts for New Japan Pro Wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom 17. Speaking of WK17, we will recap this week's shows to kick off 2023, as well as some final week of 2022 shows like Wrestle Kingdom 17, featuring Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay in an absolute instant classic. AEW Dynamite from Seattle, the new era with Darby Allin versus Samoa Joe for the TNT Championship. Last night's AEW Rampage and Battle of the Belts 5, WWE Smackdown, Raw, NXT, Stardom's Dream Queendom 2, Pro Wrestling Noah's New Year's Day show with Shinsuke Nakamura versus I don't want to call him great, maybe the Grand Wizard, Great Muda, maybe, I don't know. GCW's New Year's shows, as well as Impact on Access TV, plus much more. I am here joining us, filling in for Top Guy JJ and Miss Chrissy Love, the face and the ace of the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. It's been quite a while since we had him here on the flagship podcast. Welcome back, Mr. Romeo Anthony Cologne.
What's up, y'all? Why do I always got to be here when some Vince McMahon shit goes off?
Wasn't that the last time you were on the show? Was the Vince?
Sure.
Gotta love
I
it.
got my
Gotta
shirt
love it.
on. I got my shirt on for the occasion.
Very, very nice shirt. Very nice. I got my Biggie Andre the Giant inspired shirt. Shout out to my missus for letting me borrow that. That's a nice little shirt here. And we had to bring a special guest to kick off 2023. One of our absolute favorites that we always have here. We usually have him around when we're talking about maybe AEW, ROH, but I know he's a guy that watches New Japan. So I asked him here for this week and did not even know we were going to be talking about the biggest news story decade on this show, but we have with us the man, you hear him over at Post Wrestling as well as the Gravel App podcast, one of my favorite people in wrestling media. Benno is back.
Hey, SP3, made up to be here. I was a little bit worried you only invited me on because I was starting fights with the Sasha Banks crew this week on Twitter, so maybe this is an intervention, but luckily everyone's forgotten about that now. We've all moved on to different news stories, so I can be thankful of Vince McMahon for one thing.
You know, Vince took all the heat off of you. He took all the heat off of Skip Bayless. Took all the heat off of Karen Jarrett. Like it's been a weird start to 2023, but a lot of people have been causing a stir in social media, but nothing like Mr. McMahon. But I'm so glad to be back on a Saturday, 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, Tru Heel Heat's flagship podcast. Thank you all for joining us live wherever you are. Remember to drop the thumbs up on the video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. There's been plenty of content to start off 2023 from us, whether it be our year-end videos for 2022. We had the Wrestle Kingdom 17 preview earlier this week. Wrestle Kingdom Watch Along was very a huge success for us, starting at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. Yet we had 1,000 views, so thank you all for joining us for that, as well as 1,000 views for our review yesterday with myself, Jay News, and Sanal. So been great feedback from everything we've been doing so far in 2023. Over 200 subscribers in the first week of the new year. So thank you so much for all the great support. Got to thank Romeo as well, because he does a lot more work than I do. I appreciate you.
Oh, well, you stop. You're gonna make me blush.
I'm spread a little thin from father work, writing work, and then all this nonsense that we have to deal with in the wrestling world.
I hear you.
But
I'm loving this fancy background, SP3. Very impressed. Looking good. Get recordings in where you can.
Hey, I that's another one for the missus. The missus is the one. She put the nice little, so she was like, oh, it's gonna be a nice little background. She was like, you don't need your sheet on the back. She was like, you can have the pretty background behind you. No Tru Heel Heat sheet this week. So
let's see where that YouTube money's going. We can see.
That's why we appreciate the support, y'all. Of course, we got to shout out all of y'all. And remember, sound off in the live chat. We love hearing from y'all. The Tru Heel Heat flagship podcast is probably our most interactive of our shows that we have here on the channel. So we love to hear from all of you. We'll try to highlight as many of your comments as possible. But to make sure your comment is highlighted on screen. If you have a question, you have a thought that you want to be read out, super chat donation is the best way to do that. We are really pushing for a super chat goal of $500 just this month. It's a modest goal overall for the month, but since we're getting so much feedback, so much great success with views as well as subscribers, we want to translate that into the super chats, because all the contributors take a bit of that for what we do for this channel here. But like I said, we're going to sound off in the live chat. We got Beat Boop here with us, who says, think Trump is jealous of Vince. I mean, I don't know if Trump put his dick on the table like Vince did this week. Happy birthday to the little brother, the Jack the Jobber of Tru Heel Heat and Fightful, Caden, happy birthday to you. Welcome to the 20s. God damn, this kid is freaking young. He never even heard of AIM, probably, or Skonex. Or MySpace. Happy birthday, Caden. We got Ace, who says, what's up, SP3, Romeo, Benno, and chat. We got CM congratulating us for the success in the first week of the new year. Frantic World saying, what's up, SP3, Romeo, Benno, and chat. We also got Ace saying, as long as this stays far away from creative. I mean, if you got some connections with the man upstairs, you might want to make that call, because I've been loving all the fans that's just like, you guys are not reading the report. It says that he can't do that. Oh yeah. We'll get into
we can
that.
trust anyone. We can trust Vince McMahon.
Absolutely.
He's a man of his word.
Man of his word. It's not like he's ever beaten any cases in his life or went around things that the government has said. This man, no, of course he's gonna listen. Yes, and a couple of happy birthday shout outs for Caden in the chat as well. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you all. That's why we do the Tru Heel Roll Call to start off every edition of our flagship podcast, shouting out people supporting us on social media here on the YouTube channel and Patreon. Our top 3 conversation starters on the Facebook group page. Tru Heel Trinity is Joe Bellini, Alan Weinstein, and then back on top after a few weeks away. He's been working hard, so the holiday season gave him a chance to get back on top. The Negro Buck, Nick Jackson. Patreon backers, you got Nick, you got ALW, you got Vala B, Alex McCarthy, Professor Chris, Austin K, you my boy Blue, Yadi, Robert, Steve, Antoine, 5th Generation Carney, Ladarius, John, Dan, Kobe, Queen Moan, and Dolores. Thank you so much for supporting us on patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. $3 a month. You get exclusive content, the Tru Heel Heat Prediction Championship. By the way, Romeo, I wanted to announce the winner of season 2, since Wrestle Kingdom was the wrap up. I don't know if you had the results yet, but you got some time throughout this podcast. Probably. I don't know if you'll have time in between all the stuff we're going to be discussing. So let's get into it. Let's just get right to it. Don't even pull any punches. The top news story is, of course, Vincent Kennedy McMahon forces his way back to the WWE as a member of the board of directors to help facilitate a sale of the company. So this is like 2 big news stories in one right here. As we've previously mentioned on the flagship podcast, former WWE chairman and CEO Vince McMahon has planned on making a comeback to WWE and return to the company after his very, very high profile resignation from the company in 2022. Back in July. On Thursday, the Wall Street Journal published a new article on how McMahon is plotting a WWE return, and his comeback also involves him pursuing a sale for the company. As has been previously noted, McMahon is still the majority owner of WWE. According to the report, McMahon is planning a return to the company and is pursuing a sale of the WWE. McMahon, who has majority voting power due to his ownership of WWE's Class B stock, informed WWE that he will elect himself and 2 former co-presidents and directors, Michelle Wilson and George Barrios. If you remember, they previously left their positions as co-presidents in WWE in early 2020 due to Vince McMahon. It was rumored that McMahon was not happy with the 4th quarter 2019 earnings during their tenure, and they had disagreements on how to increase revenue for the company. Of course, both Barrios and Wilson was replaced by Nick Khan. Per the Wall Street Journal report, McMahon's reinstatement to WWE would require 3 current directors to vacate their positions, and the WWE board of directors previously rebuffed a move to have McMahon reinstated. Additionally, the board reportedly agreed to a unanimous decision that McMahon returning to the company would not be in the best interest of WWE shareholders. That was after they received a letter from McMahon asking to return as a board member for the sale. It was also communicated to the board that unless he has direct involvement at the company's executive chairman from the outset of strategic review for both a sale of the company and their media rights deal, he will not support or approve any type of media rights deal or sale. WWE media rights for both Raw and SmackDown programs are due to be renegotiated soon, as it does expire later in 2024 with the broadcast contracts. McMahon resigned from his post as WWE chairman and CEO last July amid a sexual harassment scandal and allegations of paying off former WWE workers he has alleged to be having affairs with. Per the report, McMahon remains willing to continue working to complete any reimbursement of reasonable expenses related into the investigation, into the allegations of sexual misconduct, to the extent that they are not covered by insurance. Also, McMahon is said to have declined to agree not to return to WWE. And then Vince himself issued a press release to the entire world on having submitted written consent to the WWE board to elect himself, Barrios, and Wilson as directors. The press release also notes that McMahon is taking necessary actions to position the company to capitalize on a unique opportunity to maximize long-term value for all WWE shareholders. It also details McMahon enabling unified decision-making through the upcoming media rights negotiations for WWE and a parallel full review of the company's strategic alternatives. And then on Friday, folks, it became official. WWE officially filed a document with the SEC confirming that McMahon has returned to the board. The document also revealed that Joe Ellen Lyons Dillon, Jeffrey R. Speed, and Alan M. Wexler were removed from the board without cause to make room for McMahon, Barrios, and Wilson's return. It was noted that McMahon made changes to WWE bylaws so that media rights deals and company sale can't be made without his approval. WWE then sent out a press release to confirm the news that McMahon has returned to the company's board of directors. An interesting note in the release is that after the installation of Barrios, McMahon, and Wilson, 2 members of the board resigned as well. Ignis Lalune and Manjit Singh, 2 people who were involved in the investigation against McMahon, both resigned from the board. This follows news that McMahon had previously removed Joe Ellen Lyons Dillon, Jeffrey R. Speed, and Alan M. Wexler to make room for himself, Wilson, and Barrios. The current board of directors includes McMahon, Wilson, Barrios, Nick Khan, Stephanie McMahon, Paul Lefebvre, Steve Koonin, Michelle McKenna, and Steve Parmon. Fightful Select spoke with dozens of people in WWE, noting that everyone involved was floored by McMahon's announcement. The report notes that no one in any department, including talent, production, creative, and general staff, was given a heads up in any way, either before or in the immediate aftermath of the news breaking. One talent said that they were told not one bit, but considering some people from this regime were kept this long, they must have known it would happen. Another top talent in the company said that they weren't given any information and had asked what the possibilities of McMahon returning to creative would be. That concern was prevalent. The talent spoke to 2 people in creative that spoke with the site had not been informed of any change to their responsibilities and were in fact sent notes for SmackDown just before the Wall Street Journal published the story on McMahon's declared intent to return, and employees in the production department were also not told of anything. Trust me, there is a lot more to this story, but I had to break things up. But Benno, what is your reaction to the news of Vince McMahon's return to kick off 2023?
Well, first off, great job recapping that. Like, just hearing that story out loud, you just need the Succession music in the background to just complete the whole thing, because that's what this is. We're in Succession season 5, like, and it's the McMahon family exploding. It's Logan Roy coming back. Like, my reaction's kind
Spoiler
of like,
alert.
yeah. You know that series. They'll reset at the end of every series. It'll start again. But yeah, like the McMahons, it's like my biggest like reaction is, 1, like utter disbelief that this is happening, but 2, kind of like countering that with, of course it's happening. It's Vince McMahon. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't going to go off and get any hobbies, was he? What's he been doing since July? You know, he's not a golfer. He's got no friends. He doesn't do anything other than book, you know, what was a shitty wrestling show that has got at least marginally better while he's been gone. And he's been watching it, probably watching the TV going, God damn, Paul, who's this Johnny Gargano guy? Who's this Karrion Kross guy? Who let Braun back in? Like, he's probably motivated by that more than anything, and pure boredom. Like, my biggest reaction is, I don't believe there's a real sale coming. Like, I think I think they'll go through the motions of acting like they want a sale, but I think this is a Trojan horse to get Vince back in. I think he is literally just wants that power back. Like, I think that the true story, as much as WWE will now put a rosy face on it and put out press releases about, the opportunities that are in front of them going forward, as you mentioned there, that back and forth of, Vince, Merry Christmas, guys, by the way, I'd like to come back. And then unanimously the board saying no. The board, which includes Triple H, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, both of them, have co-signed that letter back to him saying they don't want him back. That says everything. I know he's
Yes.
therefore elbowed his way in, pushed his way in, however you want to put it, and things aren't good right now. Like, he's saying he's happy with the roles that Nick Khan, Triple H, and Stephanie are doing particularly, but I can't believe that's true, and I can't believe things are going to say as they are. Maybe those guys keep the job titles, but they're going to be answering to Vince McMahon, and he's going to win at the end. That's the thing. As much as he's a scumbag, and we can, the amount of allegations out there, and the very, very serious, horrible allegations, and that shouldn't be lost. Like, he's Trump, like you said. He's that kind of guy, and he wasn't going to ever take this lying down. And Vince McMahon really loses, and it sounds like he's coming up winning right now.
Absolutely, it does. And this is what we discussed last time you were on here, Romeo, when we had Stat King kind of explaining why, Vince leaving, he was still scared that he would still have some involvement because of those Class B stocks that he owned. And now we see 6 months later, the chickens have come out to roost already. Are you surprised that it happened this soon?
No. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. Honestly, he's held the company hostage. He's held the stockholders hostage. The stock is not going to be getting any more money through a big sale unless I approve it. So, and the only way for me to approve it is if you let me back in. Let me back in. And this is just, this is Vince being Vince. Vince, we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think Benno said it best. It's definitely the Trojan horse. Like, oh yeah,
Yes.
I'm just it's just a sale. Like, legitimately, outside of the person that I sleep next to every night, I did talk to some people that do working within WWE, and they all are under the understanding that it seems like all three of us are under the understanding that it's not going to stop just there when it comes to Vince. I think people within the company know him enough, and I feel like there is the kind of that small percentage of fans that are very vocal at this point, being like, well, the report says he can't do it, and they don't understand that there is 50 years of history that says that McMahon is going to try more than this, right, Romeo?
If even people outside the company know how Vince McMahon is. We've seen it for years. Which is, it's a shame that it's not going to stop here, because I could, in a vacuum, understand why he would want to be a part of the sale. It's his baby. It's always been his baby. He helped morph it into what it is today, this global conglomerate. And you don't want Nick Khan taking credit for it. Oh, look at this massive sale that WWE, he's going to have his name at the top of the headlines. No, Vince McMahon, we know, is an egomaniac. He wants his name at the top of the headline. WWE sells for blah, 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 billion, million, whatever dollars, led by Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And when you get old, when you get senile, you start thinking about death. You start thinking about your legacy. And he wants that one final thing on his resume so he can go to sleep happy. But we know it doesn't stop at that. If it was just that, I could understand.
Yeah, I think we're all under the understanding that it's not gonna end right here, and that they can throw any smoke and mirrors to us and tell the employees this, that, and the third, but I don't know if it ends just right there, folks. Beto, do you foresee Vince McMahon attempting to garner more power within WWE, and how soon do you foresee him trying to do that?
Monday.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what that is. Yeah. Because the thing about this is, if a sale is real, and I know they're going to go through the motions, they're going to act like they want a sale, and if they want a sale, they're going to do what he did when he got rid of Braun, when he got rid of Bray. Companies that are looking to sell, they slim down. And what's the easiest thing to slim down? It's the roster. It's the wages they're paying these guys. So if that's true, the wrestlers should certainly be worried. But that's the thing about this. Stephanie McMahon, which is unlike her, around the time Vince left, was willing to say, listen, some of the reason that Vince had to go was that advertisers were uncomfortable, TV partners were uncomfortable. Like, if that remains true, he's not going to help with any kind of, sale. If anything, he's going to be a huge hindrance and a problem, especially as, you've got to believe the amount of allegations that come out about him so far. There's probably more out there. There could be other Wall Street Journal stories. He's a massive problem in the middle of it, but he's determined to stick himself in the middle of this, despite the fact that Nick Khan was probably the most qualified person to sell this company. He's the man who makes the deals. If he's not there for that, what else is he there for? I honestly think, as far as the change in power goes, it might not even be Vince forcing things. It might be people like Nick Khan just going, you know what? I don't need to put my reputation through this. It's quite clear what's happening here. He's brought back fucking, Michelle Wilson and Mr. Granularity, George Barrios. That tells you, they were, like you said, 2018, 2019, they were that Vince was blaming them for the way things were and bringing in Nick Khan to save things. If I'm Nick Khan, I'm probably looking at other opportunities going forwards. It's just, I think we're expecting.
Or he's probably just going to leak the next big hit piece on Vince, probably.
Well, if it's him, it could be Stephanie. Maybe it's Triple H.
They said you can't come back in because there's stuff that's unreleased about you that they're probably going to release if you come back in. Like,
exactly.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It'll pass.
And I think if Nick Khan is involved in like leaking the stuff, he's basically a tool. I think you have more basically motive when it comes to Triple H or Stephanie because of everything that went down prior to Vince, the scandal coming out with Vince like bad mouthing Stephanie when she took the break from the company, saying that it was all her fault with certain things that were going wrong. You had what he did to Triple H's vision of NXT and firing his basically lieutenants, all his lieutenants from NXT, and completely revamping that whole thing. So it's all those things. And then if you're Vince McMahon, if you've been watching the WWE product, in your head, you come up with about a dozen reasons why you need to be back. Why is Karrion Kross out there without a helmet? Why is Braun Strowman out there at all? Bray Wyatt, why are we spending 20 minutes with Bray Wyatt? He's been back for months and he hasn't wrestled yet. He's just pissed off. You're letting Nakamura go back to Japan. You're letting Carl Anderson work the Tokyo Dome. All these things probably pissed off Vince, and he had all the reason in the world. I even got people who told me maybe Triple H said something slick to Vince, like you can stay at home. I hope you're enjoying your vacation. And he took that salty because that first letter comes on what? The 26th, the 27th. So it's probably after the whole McMahon family spent time together for Christmas.
Triple H, one last Hail Mary by Triple H. Let me make Charlotte champ real quick. Charlotte, call him Charlotte. Maybe that'll leave the old man.
Yeah, he was like, after he got the letter, he was like, let me Charlotte come back, win the title. Maybe he'll be all right. Maybe
finally some good television. Finally.
Yeah, it's like, God damn it.
Imagine if you William Regal, like that guy, like he'll be back in AEW by halfway through the year. Tony Khan will take him back. Like first day back on the job.
Clause, Maybe he's also got some clause if Vince comes back in the power. I'm allowed to go back to AEW. Reverse, got a clause in each contract.
The reverse clause, like I can pull out the Uno reverse and go back. He's probably texting. He probably texting Tony like, "How you doing? What you doing? Why you not answering my calls?" Andrade and Miro are being like, "Hey, Tony." Miro's like, I know you wanted me to job to Dustin Rhodes, so I'll be back in like next week. Don't worry. Let's do it.
All canceling that podcast. Like, you know what? I didn't like Cornette anyway. I don't like any of those guys. Yeah, I'm love you, Tony. That tweet Tony did yesterday was brilliant. Where he was like, "Yeah, weird people are being nice to me the last 24 hours. I don't know why." Oh, I bet that's true.
I was like, T King Petty. That is his name. He always gotta say something when this big news be dropping. But of course, like I said, there's more to this story. Going back to Feiffel's report, the unanimous reaction from those that the site talked to was that the situation was bad news or above their pay grade, and something that they would not worry over until they needed to. One member of the roster said, "Finding out online is scary, and it's Vince, so I don't believe a word he says. I hope current management and everything doesn't change, but only time will tell." They said that they greatly respect Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. One more talent said they thought there would be serious issues in the roster if McMahon returned to his position in creative. A recently signed talent said, "I would be blown away if he returned to creative." One higher up in the company said, "I can't count how many interviews I've read or people I talked to outside the company that said, Vince liked me, but I got fired. He didn't like you. He didn't like any of them. He fired or they wouldn't have been, he fired them or they wouldn't have been fired during a pandemic." Earlier today, this morning, we got even bigger news as it concerns the WWE sale. In an article looking at potential buyers for WWE, CNBC is reporting that WWE has hired financial behemoth JP Morgan to advise the company on a potential sale. They targeted mid 2023 as the time that the deal will either happen or not. PW Insider yesterday had a new report sharing additional information gained from the investigation of Vince McMahon's forcible return to the board of WWE. All of their sources have universally commented how tumultuous the situation at WWE has been over the past 24 hours. It seems as though there was an academic acknowledgement that Vince's return could potentially happen, but many did not anticipate that it actually would manifest. The most recent episode of the Light Shed podcast offered a theory that UFC's parent company, William Morris Endeavor, could possibly be a candidate for purchasing WWE, but would only attempt to do so pending McMahon's direct involvement. Comcast, as the owner of NBC Universal, is also a leading name for many individuals in the running for eventual acquisition of WWE, especially considering the tenure of the relationship between the two companies. Board member Manjit Singh's resignation has been seen as the least shocking move of the day. The former Sony executive had a reputation for being extremely by the books and displayed strong support of diligent investigations into all allegations against McMahon this past summer. Jeffrey R. Speed, another now removed board member, had also been a part of the investigation, and now former board member Joe Ellen Lyons Dillon, on the other hand, joined the board in the post-investigation era and was uninvolved in those proceedings. In a recent appearance with Busted Open, WrestleNomics, Brandon Thurston took some time to offer his perspective on the developing situation of Vince's return to the board of directors. Thurston explained that the primary aspects that gave McMahon the leverage to replace standing board members and what might be involved in the board's reaction to McMahon in the near future. On what gave McMahon the influence to force out current board members, he said, and I quote, "Most importantly, WWE can't make TV rights deals without his approval. That's been made explicit. WWE can't sell the company without his approval. That has also been explicit. That's his big leverage, the TV rights deal. You can't make a deal, you can't make a TV deal without him. And that is the most important piece of their business. Their US live rights deal, which I would expect to be finalized in the spring based on previous negotiations. It's basically the lifeblood of their finance and why they've been able to set these records. And ironically enough, despite all the, the doom and gloom from wrestling fans, the stock is up. WWE stock closed out strongly on Friday on the back of the news of Vince McMahon's return to the board of directors. WWE's stock price closed at $84.27, which was up $12.23, 17% overall from the Friday closing price. McMahon's return has spurred obvious speculation about a possible sale, which was something his announcement and all reports have referenced as a reason for returning, and that is very likely the reason for the stock's surge, something that typically happens when sales are rumored. The stock has risen an additional 38 cents in after hours trading, and the closing price is best for the stock since it closed at $84 on May 8th, 2019. which WWE then held a company-wide meeting on Friday in response to the early announcement regarding Vince McMahon resuming a role on the WWE's board of directors. The meeting was held for WWE employees rather than talent and lasted approximately 10 minutes after getting pushed back from the original 3:30 p.m. slot to about 3:45 p.m. start. PW Insider shared some details. WWE officially announced that Vince McMahon was back as the member of the board of directors. The company reinforced their statements that no changes to management or their responsibilities would occur currently, meaning that Paul Levesque, Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, Frank Riddick III, who was present for the call, and others would continue their current positions and assignments. There was also an emphasis on the concept that the occurrence was significantly beneficial and would provide WWE everything required to maximize upcoming revenue sales, including fresh negotiations for Raw, SmackDown, and other brands, and would allow WWE to measure the potential for a sale of the company. The concept promoted consisted of the idea McMahon's return would put WWE on a single page in order to make the most of the company's potential moving forward. Employees were told that WWE would compare potential sale options prior to negotiations in case that path promised to be more financially beneficial than an additional cycle of simply selling broadcast rights. Although there was significant emphasis that a sale may not manifest at all and no assumptions on that occurring should be made. Vince McMahon would have the final word on any negotiations as the controlling shareholder of WWE. Another possible avenue for WWE's possible strategic business maneuvers might be for the company to go private again, and should not be the best outcome for would be the best outcome for shareholders, in their words. Sources characterized the meeting as an attempt to bolster employee morale, and no employee questions were taken during the meeting. That was a nice little note there. Additional details were also made available by Fightful Select, and the meeting was led by Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, and Frank Riddick. Indications were made that potential buyers for the company might take interest in WWE as a property instead of merely a product, and possible rehires of Michelle Wilson and George Barrios were mentioned, citing them as individuals who assisted with some of the largest rights deals for WWE in the past. So why the fuck were they fired? Like, I'm just blown away by them trying to like blow smoke up their employees' asses after the letters came out. Like, the letters were revealed that you guys didn't want this. That's why, like, the press release with them saying, you know, our founder is back, we're once again so strong. It just comes off so fake in my eyes. Benno, do you believe Vince is seriously looking to sell the company? And then a side question is, if he is serious, do you think that he has any kind of plans to make sure that whoever he sells to will make sure he's still in power? Because I think that's the clearest thing. If he is the final word on the approval of the sale, he's gonna get in writing that he stays in a position of power.
Yeah, that's why I'm suspect about a sale, because, you know, Vince McMahon has had these 6 months to do whatever he wants, and he's gotten bored and he's came back. If it was a simple sale that he was after, what's the end goal? Oh yeah, he gets untold millions to do what with? He's probably going to die soon anyway. Like, what's he going to do? Like, he's going to sit at home again? Like, of course not. Like, I think the biggest reason that you've hit on it there, that he's come back here, if a sale does happen, is that he can put himself in the middle of this and make sure, you know, if it is a sale, it's to a friendly party that are willing to, you know, allow him to stick around and have some kind of figurehead role or something like that wouldn't be guaranteed if this happened with him on the sidelines. So,
AKA not the Khan family. So anyone thinking the Khan family is going to buy this Vince McMahon over his dead body.
Yeah, exactly.
You muted.
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
I saw some people suggesting The Rock or John Cena. Like, they aren't two of the biggest Vince guys ever. Like, if you are delusional enough to think that The Rock or John Cena are going to buy the company and Vince is not going to make sure or approve that sale with him in power, and you don't think, oh no, they're not going to do that. Like, John Cena was at Vince McMahon's birthday party. What,
Yep.
what is wrong with y'all? Like, are y'all like just gonna forget everything?
And they're not that rich either. Like
No.
they're rich, they're rich, but they're not rich enough to combine forces and buy a WWE.
I could see Dwayne like Rock being like, you know, like the figurehead of some, say it's
Right.
Endeavor, say it's someone else. Like, well, he's our wrestling guy, so he's like, you know, you can picture him, can't you, on the Raw after the sale? You know, finally, we'll give it WWE back to the people, or something like that. I can picture that happening.
It's so cheesy,
genuinely.
but yes.
Yeah, but it won't. That's The Rock, isn't it? It's Dwayne these days, but it won't be his money. No way. That's
Right.
the thing.
Exactly.
No. I saw one where it was like, say who WWE who will buy WWE? Wrong answers only. So I said The Rock buys WWE for $7. That was my prediction. that's the right prediction there.
Also, remember Vince's ego. Vince in his mind made The Rock. He's gonna sell his baby to The Rock. Come on.
Y'all are bugging. Like, The Rock talks so highly of Vince, even on Young Rock. Like, what is wrong with y'all? He's pushing Rock and Roman on Young Rock. Like, what is up with y'all? Carl Gag saying someone knows where the bodies are buried. Give it a couple of weeks, they'll start to be revealed. You would think after he got resigned that they would be exposing where the bodies are laid, but maybe they already knew that he would attempt something like this. And
they got aces up their sleeves. It's coming, and it's going to be so entertaining the next couple of months. All the way up, like the week before WrestleMania, the darkest bomb is going to drop. Watch.
Yep.
We got CF who says Vince did not like his Christmas presents from the Lefecks. You can say that. You can say that again.
Ties.
Imagine that Christmas deck. Do you think Shane was invited? I think he was allowed to come? Like, that family, man. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Like, I'd love to just know, like, what did Triple H and Stephanie talk about at night? Like, those conversations, like, God, they can't be happy.
Benno, is there a character like Shane in Succession?
He's kind of like what's the song called? The one who's like, he's got the same mom as the rest of them. I can't remember his name, but the one who's running for president, he's that guy. He's like, you know, where he's just he's got his pie in the sky ideas, like, you know, WWE Europe, and, you know, starting his own MMA fed and disappearing to China to start businesses. He's that member of the family we kind of put to the side and just be like, oh yeah, carry on, it's fine.
Like, carry on. We can keep on going here. We got Beepoop who says, can anyone else think of when an owner forced himself back into the company at the expense of highly qualified and well-paid executives he hired?
I can't. Maybe someone in the chat can.
Yeah, maybe someone in the chat can. I mean, I've seen it on so many TV shows and seen documentaries on it, but I can't pinpoint one off the top of my head here. We got
the trap door, man. He had the trap door ready.
He was ready for them. He was like, I got y'all. All right, have a seat right there. We got Chase here. Thank you so much for the super chat donation. He says, don't worry, guys. Chase Bank is here to make sure WWE Inc. gets in the right hands. Hashtag money. Yes, I mean, JP Morgan, that's a huge name to be involved. So, Ben, I want to ask you, who would you like to see purchase WWE in a potential sale?
Oh, like the biggest fear that everyone's kind of had today is everyone just assuming. Imagine Vince sells it to the Saudi government and they end up running it, and but they allow him to stay on as like a puppet owner. That's probably worst case scenario. It's weird because it's like over the years we've always thought about this as a possibility. You know, there could be a sale, and that'll be finally the end of Vince McMahon's stranglehold on WWE over the last 20 years. You know, what if Triple H takes over? We got a glimpse of that over the last 6 months, and it was definitely better. Wasn't, you know, dramatic, you know, any kind of dramatic improvement, but I think Triple H did make things better.
I think he hasn't fully gone into his ideas yet, because I think he sort of had a hint this was coming. Maybe it's like, why am I going to change it so drastically when I need to keep the old man happy and focused and not piss him off too much that he's like, oh, he does this anyways, but whatever.
Yeah, and this might be it. This might be all he ever gets. He never does get that, you know, that proper run. These 6 months are as good as
until he's dead, at
to
least.
him. Yeah, which might be
Sorry to be
rather,
so
like,
morbid.
who knows?
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
He's been off for 6 months. It's who knows? You know what happens when these workaholic rich guys don't work for a while. Who knows? Fingers crossed. Sorry, I said that, not a SP3 or Tru Heel Heat. But I do think I think he's. I don't know. I don't think there's no good guy in this. It's going to be some big conglomerate, some big media rights company. It's going to be something like that. Maybe a big streaming service. NBCU sounds lightly, Comcast.
Yeah.
As far as they're paying a lot for the rights anyway. What if we just owned it? But I think any situation now ends with Vince McMahon still a puppet in charge. So I don't really know who to root for in this situation.
Yeah, it's quite the interesting situation overall. Bell saying WrestleMania 40 possibly coming to Disney Plus. Disney is one that I've heard fans discuss. I don't know if they're looking for kind of a live sports type of thing for Disney Plus. That would be pretty interesting if they were in the conversation for the sale. Rickety asking, do you think TK will buy it? I don't think I want TK to buy it because I'm sorry. Ever since he purchased the second company, his first company hasn't always been the greatest as it was pre him buying the second company. So him buying a third company, an even bigger third company than both of his other promotions. Yeah, I'm sorry. I like my AEW too much to make it suffer anymore by him having his attention somewhere else, especially somewhere else that's even bigger, and he's gonna have to dedicate more to that. This guy is already spreading himself too thin already.
Welcome to AEW Dynamite.
Absolutely. He's gonna rename Raw to Nitro. Drugs the lady say, what's good, Tru Heel? Celebrating my 44th birthday with this show and whiskey. Enjoy. Happy birthday to you. Hope you're enjoying. Yes. We got some Capricorns in the chat early today. Frantic World saying now some people are saying that AEW is the best wrestling show on TV. They're gonna watch it again. SP3. The fans' reaction, just like the doom and gloom, like this is a horrible day, and I'm just like, I mean, honestly, this is kind of fun for me. Like, I even put the post yesterday. I was like, okay, I'm gonna put this out here. I'm gonna make this clear. I want everything in wrestling to be good products. I want WWE to be good. I want to enjoy watching it. I want to enjoy watching AEW. I want to enjoy watching Impact. I want to enjoy watching New Japan. I want to enjoy watching GCW, Stardom, any other promotion that I watch from time to time. But I'm a content creator. I'm 100% for Vince McMahon coming back. Do you know? You've seen all the content that has come out from content creators? Go on.
But here's my problem. I was having such a nice week. I thought Raw was a decent show. And then we have Wrestle Kingdom, and that should be the lead this week. Wrestle Kingdom should be the lead.
It should.
And Dynamite was great. Dynamite's having a little mini pay-per-view next week. We should be. And then this shit happens. And it just grandstands everything else. SP3 is like, Romeo, we need a new thumbnail. And Vince has to be all over it. It just grandstands it.
I gave him the news when the news story first came out that Vince was gonna attempt to go for forcing himself back. I was like, yeah, you put this one, and then when it got official, I was like, okay, half the thumbnail has to be Vince. Like, he has to be Vince. It has to be Vince at this point. I feel like I've had Vince on thumbnails for Tru Heel Heat for the past 6 months. It seems
he ruins the week.
Yeah, we're in the same boat with Grapple. We were gonna on Monday. Our idea was, we haven't talked much AEW, we've had a lot of year-end content. Can't wait to get back in the saddle and spend 3 hours talking about how great AEW's been. They're gonna get 20 minutes. And that's what Vince wants, isn't it? He wants to be the center of this news cycle in this way. He wants us all talking about this, by the way, rather than the allegations that are out there against him, the Palace intrigue.
Thank you.
Isn't it? But,
not a lot of people have talked about the allegations this week because of that.
No, that's it. And it's
coming.
That's Vince. Yeah. Let's wait. Wall Street Journal. It's over to you guys.
The Wall Street Journal's they're drafting it right now.
Yeah.
It's waiting to
They're
publish.
they're already drafting the next round for this for sure. But final question to you guys to kind of put a bow on this so we can talk about all the other things Romeo wanted to talk about. I'll start with you, Romeo. What are the odds are you putting on Vince McMahon causing more harm than good in WWE over the next 12 months?
That's like 85-90%. How can anyone have faith that he's not going to? It's like, you know, once the kid gets his hand in the cookie jar and gets the cookie, and you don't tap his hand, like, you can't do that. They're gonna keep doing it. Vince is just gonna keep pushing for more. He's gonna see how far he can go, and he can go as far as he wants. He's the damn freaking owner of everything.
Yeah,
So,
got at least 20 years of evidence of Vince making things worse when it comes to WWE, and that's just on screen. I think, you know, that the probably he's still gonna, as the famous CM Punk quote said, you know, he's still gonna make money despite himself, but it's not gonna be, the product's not gonna be as good. Whatever deal they strike won't be as good. But Vince McMahon will be at the center of it, and he'll be on that throne. So that's all that matters to Vince.
Whatever sell he's trying to do, whoever he's negotiating with, they'll be like, "Hey, why don't you stop by Raw and check out the show, and we'll talk there." And then they're talking there, and then he's in the building for Raw. And he's like, so Paul, let me see that rundown. What do you got there? What's on tonight's show?" And then he sees it, he just tears the shit up.
Yeah, he just tears it up, and then Paul's looking for it like an hour later. He's like, "Where's the rundown sheet? It was like, when was the last time you saw it? Oh, like, Vince wanted to see. Oh, damn it.
Jonah Rock walks in. He's like, "Who the fuck is that guy?" He's gone.
Where the fuck is Lacey Evans' name? I don't see her anywhere.
He was like, "We're still doing Lacey Evans vignettes? I thought I ended that. She was getting over as a heel. You messed it up. Why is Liv Morgan not the champion? What are we doing here?" More Roman on the show. Come on. Man, this is gonna be great over like next couple of months. I am here for it 100%. I don't care what anybody says. 100% on board for the Vince McMahon return, because we get top news stories like this. This is the juicy stuff the fans are looking for, especially after 2022, where there was a big news story like every week. That's
the real reason we watch.
Absolutely.
Buckle your seatbelts.
It's going to be a wild ride 2023, but let's get into what we missed from this past week. So let's get into the big show from this week. And no, it's not Vince. We'll get that movie is going to come out. The show that everybody was talking about this week before this Vince story busted out was, of course, NJPW Wrestle Kingdom 17, in what was possibly the best NJPW show since the pandemic. Fans witnessed, in my opinion, one of the single greatest Tokyo Dome matches of all time, when Kenny Omega defeated Will Ospreay to win the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship in an absolute bona fide instant classic with great moments after great moments. The DDT on the turnbuckle. Here's Kenny through the table. The finishing sequence. Man, oh man, this match had it all. It was then followed, unfortunately for them, by Kazuchika Okada beating Switchblade Jay White in what I thought was a great main event to win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Hiromu Takahashi became a 5-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion by defeating Master Wato, Taiji Ishimori, and El Desperado in a super fun fatal 4-way match. Yeah, Tama Tonga beat Machine Gun Carl Anderson to win the never openweight title with the very worst gun stun RKO, diamond cutter, whatever you want to call it. It was the worst ever. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Ren Narita in a brilliant technical wrestling clinic to become the first ever NJPW World Television Champion. And then post-match, ZSJ became the frontman of TMDK. We also had Bishamon beating FTR to win the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships in a very good matchup as well. Kyrie defeated Tam Nakano to retain the IWGP Women's Championship. And then, of course, the post-match with the worst kept secret in wrestling became true as Sasha Banks made her NJPW debut as the CEO, Mercedes Mone, and challenged Kyrie for the title at Battle in the Valley in San Jose, California on February 18th. So much newsworthy, noteworthy stuff from this show. Omega, Ospreay, Benno. What's your thoughts on what was, like I said, I thought it was the best NJPW show since Wrestle Kingdom of 2020 before the pandemic started.
Yeah, I felt like Wrestle Kingdoms of old. It was like, even, I know it's a crazy time for you guys to stay up and watch a big New Japan show, but in the UK it's an early morning, and it's just it was so fun getting up on the early morning, and Twitter was alive. It felt like there were more people engaged with it. Obviously the crowd wasn't fully back to what it was before, but it was something similar to it. And we got a main event that you could place in, that canon of all-time great wrestling main events. Like, I don't want to say it was a one-match show, because you've listed off all the other matches there that were very good too. But the one abiding memory of the show is going to be that, that semi-main event, Omega and Ospreay, because that was, for my money, it was a 5-star match. Like, on the Grapple app, it's trending as the greatest match of all time right now. I imagine that will calm down, but right now, the average is something between 4.8 and 4.9 stars. That just shows how high everybody is rating it.
Some Russian judges out there.
Well, yeah, Meltzer went 6.25, so there is that.
You're gonna have to break the scale, because
anything less than 5, I want to fight you. I want to fight you.
Yeah. That's true. Like, I 100%. This was one of the rare times I totally understood what Dave Meltzer was saying. Like, when he went on the podcast right after the match, he was like. He was like, how dare anyone say this is a 5-star match? He was like, this has to be greater than a 5-star match. He was like, I was like, yeah, because all the 5-star I gave 15 matches in 2022, 5 stars. It was better than all of them. So I can't, Meltzer has broke his own star rating 39 times. Once you broke it, there's no going back. Yeah, once you broke it, there's no going back. But I broke my star rating once before Wrestle Kingdom 17, and that was Okada Omega 4 from Dominion 2018. And 5 years later, I broke it a second time because I gave this match 6 stars. This deserves the 6-star rating. But my question to both of you, what's better? Okada Omega 1 from Wrestle Kingdom 11 or Ospreay Omega from Wrestle Kingdom 17?
If you ask me what I'm more likely to rewatch, it's probably this. Maybe that's something to do with length, and this felt more digestible. That's the thing about this match. Like, there was no fat on it. Like, it felt, maybe people were expecting a couple more near falls at the end. No, the story they told was perfect the way it was. But then they can probably go up there and have a better match. So what are you going to do, SP3? You're going to break the scale again. Like,
that's what I've been saying.
Match than I can.
That's what I've been saying. And similar to Okada and Omega, it can only get better. It really can. I think the best is yet to come. I think it could be this year, which is why I'm saying, slow down on the match of the year. Then nobody's going to beat that. They could beat that. Yeah. They could wrestle again this year. I
think also the stage has a lot to it. So I don't know if AEW can create a stage like the Tokyo Dome for it to hit the pathos.
AEW has AEW. Yeah, right. But AEW has All Out, which is looked at as their biggest pay-per-view. So I could see it being there, or New Japan could get it again somewhere. Dominion, maybe, I don't know.
It's just something special about Kenny at a Wrestle Kingdom, though, at a Tokyo Dome. He's just got that extra. He goes from a 5-star wrestler to a 6-star wrestler. There's just that extra shine, and there's less bullshit and comedy, and there's something about the way he's presented and something about the way he carries himself. But again, I wouldn't put it past them, because you had a second match. They could use all this history, could use the story they told here, and elaborate on it further. It's crazy to think of the possibilities.
I'm gonna say something positive about Chicago. Imagine this match in front of a Chicago crowd.
True.
I'd agree. It would be something crazy. I think this is the only thing, if they wanted to run it back at Grand Slam, this is the only thing that could compete with Omega and Danielson.
New
with
York
that
would never
crowd.
get that. New York would never. Tony
Of
Khan
course,
doesn't like us
of course.
that much.
Exactly. He loves Chicago. He's Chicago that would get it. But I do agree with Benno. Like Kenny in the Tokyo Dome just has this like legacy to it now, because you have the Wrestle Kingdom 11 match with Okada, then you had Wrestle Kingdom 12 Alpha versus Omega, then you had Wrestle Kingdom 13 with him and Tanahashi, and then you got this match. Those 4 matches could be argued as the best 4 matches to ever take place in the Tokyo Dome, and I would definitely argue it's the 4 most important matches to New Japan, because the surge of US fans that came to New Japan, you could pinpoint Wrestle Kingdom 11, or you could pinpoint Wrestle Kingdom 12 for Alpha and Omega. It just brought so many American Western fans to the New Japan product. Then I felt like the Tanahashi match was the better of all, was on the par with Okada, and was better than the Jericho match. And then this match here, once again, with what New Japan, result. We'll talk about, some notes coming out of Wrestle Kingdom. With the success of this show, this has to be viewed as one of the main drawing cards for the show. So my question for you, Benno, because I know you watch a lot of New Japan, I know you do the star ratings with Gravel app, who would you call Mr. Wrestle Kingdom? Because for years that moniker has belonged to Hiroshi Tanahashi. But now you got, Okada, who's main evented all these Wrestle Kingdoms, ended on top so many different times. And then you have Omega with just 4 matches that could compete with either man's resume at that show. So who would you call Mr. Wrestle Kingdom?
I think from our point of view, like the Western fan looking in, it's probably Omega at this point, especially if we get, let's say we get 1 more of these matches, that could maybe rival Tanahashi's record there. I think New Japan see it as Okada 100%, with the way the show ended, and it was the only way it could end, wasn't it, with him doing the Inoki at the end of the show. But yeah, for me, it's Omega. You can't, he's had, I know Okada was part of them as well, but, the greatest matches you said there in Wrestle Kingdom history and Tokyo Dome history, it's wrestling history at this point, isn't it? What matches are as good as these? Maybe Will Ospreay is in with the shows. Like, he shouldn't get lost in the conversation. He was a massive part of, what made this match great. This was the best Will Ospreay you'll see, selling from underneath, bleeding underdog, almost babyface. Will Ospreay, he had, the Okada match last year, and he's got, I presume lots more years to go. Like, there is that elite class, isn't there, of top Wrestle Kingdom guys, and he's pushing his way into it as well. So yeah, I think right now it's probably Omega, but I think the Japanese crowd would maybe disagree with that.
I'd say Okada, and I think Okada's still just 35 years old, which is in wrestling age. He's got like at least 5 to 6 more years on top at his level right now, doing more of that at least.
And his career is like always been about Wrestle Kingdom. He came back, to New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom. What was it? I think it was 6 or 7, and then made the challenge for Tanahashi. Started that year-long build to the following Wrestle Kingdom, where they met for the 3rd time, and that whole rivalry being a part of the Wrestle Kingdom lore. And really, that was like my first introduction was Wrestle Kingdom 9, with them facing again at the Tokyo Dome in the main event, and then following up again at Wrestle Kingdom 10. So, like I said, all 3 guys have very strong arguments, but I also agree with Benno. We can't undermine what Will Ospreay did in this match. This was like peak Will. Like, he, for anyone who says Will Ospreay is a flippy wrestler or just a high flyer, you have not been watching since 2019. This guy, since Kenny Omega left New Japan for AEW, he has so smoothly filled the slot of the British best bout machine, and it's been ridiculous the amount of classics he's had in this past 4-year span.
I wonder if it's lining up for him to take center stage next Wrestle Kingdom, with the stories there. I wonder if New Japan will go through with it.
Yeah. That's what it seems like. It's like that was the story of this match was almost Omega turned out to be right. Omega saying that, Ospreay couldn't, carry his water and Ospreay was like a pale imitation. I mean, the match itself showed that, there's only two wrestlers who can pull off a match like this, I'd say. Who've got that athleticism and got that next gear that most wrestlers don't have. But the story they told within it was that, Ospreay kind of got found out a little bit. He was so good in that role, as far as selling, as far as putting Omega over. But they're going to have to tell that story now where Ospreay makes that big comeback and I don't expect eventually gets the win back. But that's going to be great too.
I was surprised how brutal this match was. Physically brutal. And I was like, well, they had all that hype. I guess they had to go that way. They delivered on the hype.
Yeah, they kind of went an interesting direction, I thought, because it was like you could have just relied on it being a pure sports build dream match, which is probably what most of us expected, but them ramping it up with the press conference and everything leading in and making it more personal. I do think that's part of what took it over, that 5-star range that made it. It's the brutality, like you say, the stiffness of it, the hard nature of it that made it.
And they really built the story around it all, starting from Wrestle Kingdom 13 when Kenny left, and that same show, that's when Will concusses Kota Ibushi, and then the Kamigoye at the end, like all that stuff. And then the Styles Clash by Will Ospreay, how Styles is like the idol of both Will and Kenny, like just all that stuff made this just a special thing to watch. And it's something that I'm never gonna forget, and it's something that I'll probably watch a few more times throughout 2023. Whenever I'm gonna feel that there's a match of the year contender, I'll probably watch this right after and be like, okay, it's just below this.
That's about
so you're gonna watch this again next Thursday morning? Because what if I told you this is only the match of the year for 1 week? What if I told you that?
I think with blurred vision, the fact that Kenny Omega is going to be in a ladder match on Wednesday it blew my mind that they competed on New Year's Dash, both of them. I was like, why did these guys not just take the night off after that? Like,
it's dedication.
Beautiful
we
stuff.
had to get that moment though.
And to say with Benno, you were saying like how Kenny is a lot more serious when he's like in New Japan in the Tokyo Dome. I feel like Kenny Omega is like the Jack Nicholson of wrestling, where he can play the villain so well, play this murderous victim, a murderous villain, but still at the same time crack me the hell up. Here's Kenny, him bashing Ospreay's head into the broken table, looking like a murder scene, then bringing him back into the ring, and he picks him up and he says, "Backbreaker." This is like a freaking Street Fighter character. He said, "Backbreaker."
And I would be remiss if as a huge Final Fantasy fan, that entrance was awesome.
And then Will bringing back Elevated was just like, I was like, oh, this is superstar level, because it was like that Elevated song was just like, okay, now we're confirmed. Will is the babyface here. Will, the return of the assassin with Elevated. This is the Will that everybody loved. And I think like coming out of it, I didn't even say like Kenny was better than Will. It was really, they really told the story how they're so evenly matched, and maybe Ospreay is better than Omega, but Omega is smarter. He's mentally better than Ospreay. That was the key in this match.
Yeah, that's it. And Ospreay will be back. That's the thing. That's the beauty of this story. And like I think Ospreay is like, he's a great heel wrestler too, and he's had some all-time matches over the last couple of years, but he does feel a little bit try-hard when he's in that bad guy role. Like, this is the Will I want to see going forward. Hopefully we get more of it.
Oh, we also got Don Callis was amazing on commentary. He cracked me up as well. Just the one line when I think it was Kevin talking about how Kenny passed the ball to Will, and then Don interrupts him and says, and he dropped it. And then Kevin and Chris are like, no, he didn't. And then Don responds with, the fans, they wouldn't cheer him. And then Chris and Kevin both say, it was a pandemic.
That's some good trolling, man.
That was so, he was so good.
Good trolling.
in that promo he did at the press conference, I don't think a lot of people talked about it enough. That was
because Ospreay overshadowed it, but yeah.
That promo as well was tremendous too. MCAT saying I was thinking Takeshita versus Danielson going to be a 5-star. I mean, if you're just talking about in-ring work, that man, the Wednesday show, we'll talk about it when we talk about Dynamite. It's gonna be huge on Wednesday, but we gotta also talk about the other big news story from Wrestle Kingdom, and I want to hear Benno's thoughts because he caused a little bit of a ruckus. Mercedes Mone debuting in New Japan Pro Wrestling did not go off 100% positive to fans. It was a polarizing viewpoint. You know, you had people like me just happy that she's there, and I pretty much got what I expected outside of the botched move, the gory bomb into the DDT, which it wasn't on Mercedes, honestly. It was on Kairi. I've watched it many a times. Kairi just drops down to her knees instead of landing on her feet when Mercedes spins her like it's supposed to be executed. I don't know if she was prepared to take the move or not, but yeah, it did not go off well. The promo, a lot of people did not like. Her reaction was not that big. It is New Japan, in my opinion. I thought they did do the when her face came on the screen, but they didn't give her the big reaction. Benno, you were very critical of this debut. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm scared here that the crew might come for me. I was called all kinds of names this week, SP3. Somebody said I had a head shaped like a loaf of bread. I don't know what that means.
Wow.
But a lot of beans on toast.
I saw you change your picture on social media.
I'm a big loaf of bread now. I mean, yeah, I was getting our typical British say they come again. It's like I was getting treated like I was Louis Dango, like unbelievable. But like
it was the Sasha stands coming after you.
Oh yeah, they found me, and they found me big time. Those quote tweets. And the funny thing is, I'm a fan of Sasha Banks. Like as far as my podcast goes, absolutely high man on Sasha Banks. Like I think this is a great news story. I think it's good for New Japan. If she is going to AEW, it's big for AEW. Great for Sasha too. You know, betting on herself, not accepting a lowball offer from WWE. Like I could start with the positive because the positive is, as you said, SP3, and she's shown the pictures there. Like she looked incredible coming out, looked like a star, felt like a star. There was that initial, great reaction to the reveal of her. If you just go by the stills and you go by the photos, and we use all of that going forward, it's a great, big, memorable moment. But I think with the botched move, it doesn't even necessarily matter whether it's her fault or not. Is it the fact that she was, maybe lesson, don't do a move like that in heels. Maybe that's part of it. But even if it's not her fault, it's a timing issue. These things happen in wrestling. It did, make the whole moment a bit anticlimactic, having to lie there and, Sasha's cutting that promo for, 10 minutes and, having to sell a move that's, that didn't land is not something you would wish on anybody, especially in such a big moment. So that was, not great.
After a tiny little 5-minute match.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my biggest nitpick. That was my biggest nitpick from the show is that
it was like
I didn't understand.
They had 10 minutes.
6 minutes. Yeah,
they had a lot of the amount of time for the match and the segment, and it was like, no, you're not getting any more. So they spent more of the time on the segment, and the promo was just very, very WWE for me, very awkward, felt very forced. It just wasn't great delivery, really, and it was too silent. And I know it is Japan, and I know this wasn't the loudest New Japan crowd, but people used to say that off the Bucks as well, and they get some quiet responses sometimes. Just, it's Japan. Sometimes, Japanese fans don't react loudest to foreign wrestlers. There's a lot of people in there. We forget WWE hasn't been on TV in Japan for about 3 years. There were probably a lot of people there who didn't know who she was, and it was that combination of three things: the botch, the promo, the weird reaction. All of that just made it awkward. Is it going to affect the drawing power long term? No. We're going to get a great match out of it. We're hopefully going to get a great run out of it. It just wasn't a great start, but yeah. The crew came for me anyway, and I'm sure I'm going to get more.
No, you explained that very, very well, so I understand where you're coming from. And I think I said it on the yesterday's review, is that it was undeniably flat. Like, we can't say that it was like, oh my God, it was perfect. No. And my one nitpick, me, Romeo, I like to just adjust things a little bit. It's usually with WWE, but with New Japan, the only thing I would have adjusted is that this was the worst kept secret in wrestling. So to get the bigger reaction, and if you only had 6 minutes, why not do this? have Mercedes wrestle at Wrestle Kingdom. Have her come out at the beginning of the matchup and make it a 3-way, because that turns people's expectations, because everybody and their mama were just a lot. There was some people who were Western fans, who were the crew fans, that just were like, okay, let's get this match over with. I want to see Mercedes. So if they would have turned expectations by having her come out at the beginning and saying this is a 3-way, I think that it would have got a bigger reaction.
There's just two issues with that. One, you don't want to have Mercedes lose her first match, and two, you want to have Kyrie have at least one successful title defense. So one of those you would have to sacrifice. Which one do you want to sacrifice? I mean, Kyrie's probably going to lose at Valley of the, what's it called? Something at the Valley?
Battle in the Valley.
Battle in the Valley. Yeah.
Probably going to lose there anyways. But give Kyrie a successful defense. I don't know.
Come on, New Japan. I know you wanted to say, oh, her first defense at Wrestle Kingdom makes it all good. You could have just done this defense, and you could have had her get one defense at Dream Queendom, since it happened a week before this. You could have had that match with her and Yatami Hayashita be for the IWGP Women's Championship to get her that one defense, and then you could have done the 3-way here.
Or how about Sasha challenge her after and pull a Charlotte?
Yes, right here, right now. Absolutely. Talking about some of the business coming out of Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan Pro Wrestling has announced that they hit record viewership numbers for Wrestle Kingdom 17 this past Wednesday. In addition to the live attendance of 26,085 in the Tokyo Dome, there were 92,409 unique viewers on New Japan World, making it the most watched, most viewed NJPW event of all time and Wrestle Kingdom event of all time. Some more follow up with the business and notes. Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that NJPW Wrestle Kingdom hit a new record in Google search entrance thanks to Kenny Omega and Mercedes Mone. The show was the 11th most searched topic on Wednesday. This is the first time that a Japanese event has ever hit the top 20 for a day. Not only that, wrestling itself only gets in the top 20 for WWE or AEW pay-per-views, as well as major news stories like a death or Vince McMahon's resignation. Last year, John Cena's return to WWE on the December 30th edition of SmackDown, while providing a huge number for the ratings for SmackDown, did not even hit the top 20 for Google searches that day. So it tends to, put a lot of people are going to put the credit for the big numbers on these two. It helps their drawing power moving forward. And then to further, bolster their drawing power, the Wrestling Observer newsletter also reported that there was a surge in ticket prices for NJPW Battle in the Valley following the announcement of Mercedes Mone versus Kyrie. The match was made at Wrestle Kingdom 17 after Mercedes made her debut and attacked the IWGP Women's Champion. Prior to the announcement, tickets were already ahead of the last show at San Jose Civic, which was around 1,500. After the announcement, an extra 400 tickets were sold instantly. There are currently 1,885 tickets out of 2,152 sold. The event will more than likely sell out. And following her NJPW debut, WWE.com has now listed the former Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Mone, to the alumni section of the company's website. Meanwhile, Naomi is listed on the regular roster at the moment, and it should also be noted that Naomi and Bayley, WWE superstars, were backstage at Wrestle Kingdom in support of Mercedes' debut. So, you had the criticism on how the debut went, but it's undeniable that she did make an impact with this worst kept secret, did make an impact as far as drawing numbers for Wrestle Kingdom, and then did the announcement for Battle in the Valley. What did you say, Benno?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's there's clear money here with Mercedes Mone, and a lot of it is probably going to be stateside. You talk about those increased numbers for New Japan World. There's probably a lot of people like us or going, what was my password again? Like, how do I log into New Japan World? How does this website work? There's a lot of us coming back, and I think we're the people coming back for Omega, Ospreay. But I think there were probably a lot of brand new people who were there who probably tuned out after Mercedes Mone's debut and logged onto Twitter to call me a bitter bean-eating bitch. But those people aside, I think you can probably compartmentalize those lot.
They probably tuned out of this podcast too after the negative things you
Gone.
guys had to say. Listen, listen, if you're still here, if you're still listening, I liked Mercedes Mone. I liked mostly everything about it except for the botch. You know, the botch was okay. And you know what? I even like her song. How about that?
I love the song. It's crisscross jump. Like, how can you not like that song? Come on,
Great
man.
song.
That's the 90s. She bringing back the 90s with the money.
Money. And I like that part. I like that part. I saw people complaining about that part. I loved it.
No,
I dig it. I do dig it.
When was the last time you heard people being this positive about New Japan, though? You know, like it's like us guys kind of forced to cover it over the last couple of years. It's been a grind in parts, but like right now, it feels like, you know, they're capitalizing on that positivity. You know, there's good cards coming up. There's things to be excited about. Like it's a great time for New Japan right now. Let's hope they keep capitalizing on it.
Yeah, they just keep building on this. Make a big matches. It seemed like they set up a bunch of big matches for like New Beginning. We got the card for Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Yokohama later this month as well, which we will discuss. But yeah, they got some real momentum at this point. And talking about that, of course, a lot of that momentum has to do with Ospreay and Omega. Following his epic encounter with Will Ospreay, there was an update provided on Kenny Omega's condition following that bout. Dave Meltzer wrote on Twitter that Omega and Okada were both good after their matches. Omega's eye was swelling shut from the cheeky Nando's kick, and his face had a footprint on it, but no orbital break or anything serious, at least as far as everyone thought late last night. And I saw that cheeky Nando's kick. I was like, you could tell it hurt him because he got that last kick and he immediately started holding his face. I was like, oh my God, he really shot on him right there. He really kicked him right in the freaking face. The newly crowned IWGP US Heavyweight Champion Kenny Omega has said that he has forgiven his rival and Wrestle Kingdom 17 opponent Will Ospreay. In a post on Twitter, Omega wrote that he respects Ospreay's passion and gave him his forgiveness. He wrote exactly, yesterday at NJPW WK17, we desperately raced towards the same goal and we're willing to break our bodies for it. That kind of passion I can respect. I forgive you. On Friday, the Wrestling Observer newsletter, besides rating this matchup of Ospreay and Omega, its second highest star rating that Dave Meltzer has ever given, 6.25 stars, tying Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada 2 from Dominion 2017, and just below Okada versus Omega 4 from Dominion 2018. He did provide some details on the original plans for the feud between the two men. The original idea was for the two to have a series of matches with a story that Ospreay was the better athlete, but Omega was better mentally. While Ospreay might one day beat Omega, the latter said that their time wasn't now. After the match was over, Omega even alluded to this by saying that 364 days of the year, Ospreay was the better wrestler. They did a lot of big moves, but still allegedly held back, as this is meant to be match one. It's unknown when the second match might be. It was noted that even though Omega is an AEW wrestler, the company did not mention his match with Ospreay leading up to Wrestle Kingdom or even hours later on Dynamite. A two-part question for you guys. Benno, do you think it was a mistake for Dynamite to do like no mention of this matchup that Brian Alvarez, who was there in Seattle for Dynamite, even said that everyone backstage was talking about it? So even like a slight mention, because they did the slight mention that FTR lost the IWGP tag team titles, but no mention of Ospreay Omega. Do you think that was a mistake?
I think so. They do this a lot sometimes. AEW, I think, what's the point in having you guys do stuff? What's the point in sending guys to like the Super Juniors or even Tag League and then not really referencing what's happening there? What's your benefit? If you're not going to show that footage and show, your guy being the talk of wrestling this week. Like Dynamite was incredible regardless, and maybe for 2 hours we forgot about Wrestle Kingdom. So that's the argument against. But yeah, I think that's an easy win, to be honest.
They don't want you to spend your 9.99 yen. They want you to save that for Revolution. Save it.
Save it for the $50 Revolution card. Absolutely. And I'll put you on the spot, Romeo. Call it right here. Ospreay Omega 2 happens when?
Forbidden Door.
That's my call too. Chicago, Forbidden Door, United Center, sell that bitch out with Ospreay Omega 2. Nick Jackson is saying, man, those two really beat the dog shit out of each other, one another. Absolutely did. ALW says, oh, Ospreay versus Omega is probably the best match I have ever seen. No hyperbole. It was simply amazing. Negro Buck says, Dynamite definitely should have at least mentioned the match. I totally agree there as well. But it wasn't the end for New Japan, because if you're real, if you in the gym shooting with New Japan, you also watch the Raw after WrestleMania for New Japan, which is always New Year's Dash, which follows Wrestle Kingdom every single year. And in this one, in my opinion, was the best one since 2018. Back in 2018, that was the card that had Jay White turning on Kenny Omega when he invited him into the Bullet Club, starting the whole Bullet Club Civil War with Kenny and Cody, and then also had Chris Jericho setting up his rivalry with Naito. It felt exciting. This one had that same energy to it. And in the biggest shock of the mystery card that they had, for the first time ever, IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Kazuchika Okada teamed with one of, if not his greatest rival, the new IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion Kenny Omega, to defeat the United Empire's Aaron Henare and Jeff Cobb. Post-match, Cobb did challenge Omega for the title, so we should be seeing that as Omega's first defense of his second reign of the United States Championship. Meanwhile, Shingo Takagi beat Sho, Toriano, and Great Okan to win the KOPW 2023 provisional title belt. Following the WK17 main event, Shingo did challenge Okada for his title, and then he did it again at the Dash, but this time Okada made reference to the fact that he's the one that came up with the idea for the King of Pro Wrestling and made a challenge for Shingo's belt as well. So it seems like they're setting up champion versus champion, maybe new beginning coming up at the end of the month. There were several bigger notes when it concerns factions and alliances, like Minoru Suzuki and El Desperado trying to recruit Ren Narita to a new stable now that Suzuki-gun is dead. The remaining Suzuki-gun members became my favorite stable name of all time. I don't care what y'all say, Benno and Romeo, just 4 guys. I'm here for it, and that I'm getting my Just 4 Guys shirt, and I'm rocking it. And a young lion joined a group for the very first time in New Japan when Zack Sabre Jr. made Konsei Fujita a new member of Team TMDK after becoming the front man at Wrestle Kingdom 17. They now have their roadie in the young lion. Tama Tonga, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Master Wato, and Hikuleo beat the Bullet Club by disqualification when El Phantasmo blasted Tama with his never title. Post-match, though, the more important thing to this match was Jay White brutalizing Hikuleo with the steel chair after his post-match interview, where he blamed Hikuleo for losing at Wrestle Kingdom because he turned on the Bullet Club. And Jay White made a very interesting challenge for Hikuleo to a loser leaves Japan match. And just to coincide with that, one of the notes that I have for New Year's Dash is, according to Fightful Select and then later confirmed by the Wrestling Observer newsletter, WWE has interest in Hikuleo. That might be why the stipulation was made seemingly out of nowhere. So, Benno, what do you think about this interesting stipulation? Jay White making the challenge for a loser leaves Japan match with Hikuleo.
Yeah, I thought we were in for, is Jay White going to leave New Japan season once again? And
I
spoiler,
was here
I actually
for
think
it.
that'd be good. I think that'd be a good thing.
I put it on the Tru Heel Heat Twitter page and my Twitter page. If there's one guy in any promotion outside of WWE that I can instantly see coming to WWE and getting properly pushed and becoming a main eventer, is Switchblade Jay White. Like, he has all the skills to be a WWE main eventer.
Tailor-made, like even with Vince McMahon in charge, like I'd buy that if I was Jay White. I'd give it a try. He was so good at Impact, wasn't he? And it suited, it was Impact, so nobody saw it, but it suited his strengths. And the thing is, his New Japan run's been incredible. But what else is he going to do? He's always going to be the guy who loses to the guy at Wrestle Kingdom, as he was with Okada, and that's a great role. I'm not doing that down. I just think he's hit his head on the ceiling at some point as far as New Japan goes. But that's probably, like you say, that's probably not the story here. We're all scrubbing our notes with the Hikuleo news coming out. And of course, WWE be interested in Hikuleo, because for all the things you can say about Jay White, what Hikuleo has got, that he's tall. So there you go. That's it. That's literally the whole draw. He's tall, and that's why WWE probably want him. And they probably saw him. Triple H saw him for the first time against Carl Anderson. Was like, that guy. Like, that's it. That's all this is.
He's like Roman's third cousin. You're in the bloodline now,
Yeah, extra heater in the background. Yeah.
And when you look at the people that Triple H has hired back into this company, like Hikuleo kind of fits in with guys that they have hired back, the top dollars of the world, the Dexter Lewises of the world. Like Triple H, I mean, I've been saying it for weeks, and I feel like I'm in an echo chamber because not too many people are saying it with me. He has taken an L when it comes to these signees that he's brought back.
Bad taste.
WWE. He's really got bad taste. He's got bad taste in wrestlers. Honestly, it seems like when he was catering to hardcore wrestling fans with NXT, he had a lot better taste then.
Yeah, I think that well ran the dry, and that's why we ended up with the guys carrying cross and people like that becoming Triple H's guys. Yeah, Hikuleo seems like another one of those where we'd all be scratching our head, going, "Why?" But it'll happen. Yeah, and this stipulation just adds weight to that, doesn't it? It makes it feel like it must be coming as time in Japan is done.
Yeah, and we got Dolores here saying on New Year's Dash they mentioned that Ospreay may go to AEW, get his title. So yeah, that could be an option for Ospreay. Ospreay's been great in AEW as well, so I wouldn't mind him coming back. We got Nikki Boy who says, I still can't believe that Okada and Omega teamed together at New Year's Dash. That was I never thought I would see. I marked the hell out, Romeo, to this. Were you surprised hearing that Okada and Omega teamed up in this fashion? Because honestly, when Omega came out and there was like the kind of like the build up to who his tag team partner was going to be, I thought we were about to hear Ibushi's theme song. I was ready for it, but I was still surprised by the coin drop.
No way it was going to be Ibushi. You had to know it was Okada. He was like the only guy that hadn't. That was the main event, right? He was the only guy that had. Can we? By the way, can we go back to producer? Can we go back to that picture of the Rainmaker and the V trigger at the same time and just like
the rain trigger? The rain trigger.
What's this guy's name? He got obliterated on this shit. I think it's deleted already. Yeah.
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was beautifully done. I love the finishing sequence. It was just like, yes, they're like the New Japan Mega Powers. It's a beautiful thing to see. Even Gino on commentary was like, "Where's the handshake? Give me the handshake."
I want to see them team again against stiffer competition.
Yes, and I would love to see them go at it again. Give me Okada and Omega in freaking the USA. It needs to happen eventually, and I wouldn't mind them doing the Okada Omega to set up maybe a bigger, even them Omega and Ospreay getting a even bigger match at next year's Wrestle Kingdom with Kenny as the world champion against Will Ospreay, who is my pick to win the G1 this year.
If you're not doing Omega Ospreay Forbidden Door, could you see it at Dominion too?
I would think the second match happens in AEW. It's got to happen in the US. Too. Yeah. I think it's
so the right third one's in Japan.
Yeah, the third one could be back at like Wrestle Kingdom, or if the two guys are in the G1. I mean, I wouldn't mind that either.
G1? Oh my god,
I want Omega in the G1.
The only negative, if it happens in the US, you kind of lose that dynamic, don't you? Of Ospreay being like the underdog babyface, he'd almost have to be the heel as the outsider because the AEW fans aren't going to cheer him over Omega, are they? So I don't know if I love the dynamic now that I think about it.
Yeah, but what if the second one is Ospreay beating Omega to win the G1?
Could be that.
I like that better.
Could be that. Yeah. That's a good shout as well. And you could save the big US matchup between the two. Maybe they do the whole trilogy this year, and then the third one is in the US. They could go that route as well. So I love the fact that there's so many possibilities.
Right.
I've started the conspiracy theory on Grapple of Forbidden Door is happening in the UK. I've got no evidence other than the fact that WWE have announced the pay-per-view in the UK in July, which tells me they maybe know something. But if they're adding a fifth pay-per-view, there's supposed to be a UK show this year, and you could do Ospreay Omega. Maybe I'm just trying to wish that into existence. But
yeah,
could happen.
That would be fun though.
You're like, I want a crowd that's gonna make Will even a bigger baby face. So make it
Exactly.
in the UK. I get it.
Well, some
I
of the
get it.
crowd, not all of them, unfortunately, with Will, but most.
That's true. That's true. Some people have long memories.
Yeah.
Following LIJ's loss at Wrestle Kingdom to Team Muda, we had the group was confronted by Pro Wrestling Noah's Congo stable during the post-match presser. On Thursday, New Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah have announced a joint event for January 21st called Wrestle Kingdom 17 Part 2, and the show will happen at the Yokohama Arena on Friday. The lineup for the show was revealed. It will be headlined by Congo versus LIJ best of 5 series. You're going to have Bushi versus Tensuki. You're going to have Hiromu Takahashi versus Hajiman. You got Sonata versus Manbu. You got Shingo Takagi versus Nakajima. And the main event is going to be Tetsuya Naito versus Keno. So there's going to be a lot of fun matchups between the LIJ best of 5 series for sure. And plenty of other matchups with Pro Wrestling Noah going against New Japan. So going to be an exciting show. And of course, we will cover it here on the flagship podcast, and maybe we'll have a review on the channel or at least on Patreon for you guys to check out. But I think we've done enough talking about New Japan. We've been alluding to it. AEW Dynamite this week. They were in Seattle, Washington for what was billed as the new era of AEW. Unfortunately, it did not result in the ratings going up. It actually went down slightly to 864,000 viewers, but the show featured, a brand new set. You had graphics and production moves with Mike Mansuri fully taking over as executive producer. It kicked off with Ricky Starks defeating Chris Jericho in a fun opener to the show. Post-match, the JAS attacked Starks and Action Andretti after he tried to make the save, with Hager driving Ricky through a table at ringside. You also had the Acclaim beat Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal in what was my guilty pleasure of the week, because I am here for Jeff Jarrett and AEW. This has worked so much better than anyone thought it would. Yep. This was after a dusty finish where Triple J had won the title cheating, and then Aubrey was reversed the decision, and eventually the Acclaim won. Hangman Adam Page confirmed that he would be back after a brain scan next week to face Jon Moxley in a very intense promo exchange that was almost ruined by bad mics, I guess. Bryan Danielson beat Tony Nese. Post-match, Bryan cut an excellent promo, had an excellent promo exchange with AEW World Champion MJF to set up the gauntlet of dragging, having to win on Dynamite for 5 straight weeks to face MJF at Revolution for the title in a 1-hour Iron Man match. You also had a Yo Mama joke, so this is a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up for SP3 in a very intriguing set of segments. You also had Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, referred to herself as the boss. But then we had Soraya named Tony Storm her tag team partner for next week's show in Los Angeles, right in front of a very pissed off and annoyed Hikaru Shida, who was the MVP of this entire segment. Swerve Strickland defeated AR Fox in an awesome sprint of a matchup, a callback to the Lucha Underground rivalry. And then, of course, the main event of Darby Allin defeating Samoa Joe in a thriller to win the TNT Championship, hugging with Sting to end the show in his hometown of Seattle. What a closing moment it was. A very special moment. Felt like Darby Allin had been reignited after a full year of, I don't know what the fuck AEW was doing with him. So I'm glad to see him back into this position. Benno, what did you think about this episode of AEW Dynamite?
Honestly, I've been quite critical of AEW towards the end of last year. This run they're on right now is just it's so great to see. We were all kind of on a high because of Wrestle Kingdom, and then this Dynamite happened as well. It was incredible. It was an unbelievable show. The crowd were incredible. A big improvement. I wasn't so into the new set. I felt like they didn't make enough change as far as the ring apron and stuff goes. But the big improvement for AEW the last few weeks for me has been the miking of the crowds and the way that production, like you say, has improved. It feels like the hottest product in the world. and then you put this stuff in front of me, and it's like, yes, the rating is a disappointment. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It's bad. But I think with wrestling and oftentimes most things, it takes a while. You know, you have a good run of shows. Your reward aren't necessarily going to be immediate unless you've got like a big star drawing card or something like that, or something you can pull out. If the quality of the show remains this good, I think the ratings are gonna follow. And yeah, as you said there, you give me a show with that amazing Darby Allin moment at the end of the show. Like you say, I'm Team Jeff Jarrett now. Like, I've always enjoyed Jeff. Ironically, when he came into AEW, even I, as an ironic Jeff Jarrett fan, was like, "Come on, Tori, you can't do this." What's he done that's been bad in AEW? Nothing. Everything he's done has been gold, up to and including that funny strut he did when he thought they'd beat the Acclaimed on this show. It was just awesome. Ricky Stark continues to be pushed really well. The Danielson MJF stuff is continuing to hit. It's just everywhere you look, it's positives. Everywhere you look, it's fresh positives, fresh guys. I'm with you on Darby Allin. I don't know what they were doing for the last year or so with him. He needed heating back up. He's been heated up. Ricky Starks, he's been heated up. Like, I don't like giving credit to Chris Jericho, but credit to Chris Jericho for putting him over and for doing that job, because Ricky Starks probably couldn't have done with a loss here tonight. Everywhere you look, it's positives. Everywhere you look, it's fresh. And yeah, they should stick the course, because I think the good ratings are going to come if the shows remain this good.
I think you're absolutely right, and especially with the pay-per-view that we're gonna get next Wednesday in Los Angeles, I'm very interested in. What was kind of your biggest highlight from Dynamite this week, Romeo?
The two promos with Mox and Hangman, MJF and Bryan. I thought both of those were great, especially the MJF Bryan one, and definitely AR Fox and Swerve. Who I got educated on their history with Lucha Underground. I have not seen that match, but I've heard tremendous things about that match that brought a little nostalgia back with their little sprint.
Yeah, it felt very much like a AEW answer to the Ricochet and Will Ospreay matches in a way, in a slight little way. It felt like that. Like they was just the flips to respond to another flip. It was great stuff, and they just flowed that, and it surprised me that I gave that the match of the night, because I liked a lot of the show, but that I felt like that was the strongest match of the night. We got a bunch of people talking about Dynamite in the chat, saying Steven Chambers saying great match, Starks and Jericho. We also got Negro Buck, who says great win for Darby in his hometown. He also says Dragon really called Max's mom a hoe. Yes. I love the clapback. I just love the clapback. You said my mom had sex with a goat. Well, your mom had a sex with everybody here.
And MJF hates his mom, but still he was like, don't you dare.
Yeah, that's
not funny.
That's a thing that always puts over the babyface against MJF. It's his reaction, because he feels like he could say anything, but if you clap back at him, he always acts like he's so offended, and it just puts whatever the babyface said over more.
While we're talking AEW, I have an agenda I need to make public, because I know Tony Khan's watching. I know he watches Tru Heel Heat every Saturday, especially over at Grapsity. I need you, while you still can, don't do what WWE did. WWE still have not had their 4 horsewoman match, and they're not going to get it for a bit longer. We know why. I need the 4 pillars match set up pronto while MJF is champion, while you still have him, while he's under your contract. I need, Darby, you're heating him up. Good. Jungle Boy on his way, I think. Sammy Guevara, where the fuck is he? What is he doing? We need the 4 pillars match sometime this year for the championship. Double or nothing, preferably.
I wouldn't mind it. I already said I want Darby versus MJF, champion versus champion. It could be Darby going after the world championship. It doesn't have to be the TNT title on the line, but I need Darby to have like at least 4-6 month reign, and then he goes for the championship, because in my eyes, out of all the pillar matches, the best one was MJF and Darby at Full Gear 2021.
Yeah, you want it to be like that Rock Triple H rivalry where they met as at IC champion level and then they followed each other to the main event. I want to see that happen too. Yeah.
Absolutely. They very much got that vibes. And I feel like they like you said, Benno, they could do so much more with Darby. I feel like he's such a unique how he looks, his whole backstory, the relationship with Sting. Like you have all the makings of this great baby face that AEW can build around. He was my pick to honestly be the guy to eventually dethrone MJF, but I don't feel he's there after the year that they kind of just cooled off on him, but they can get him back there, I think.
Yeah,
but
definitely. I think that's been a big sign of these shows, just that concentrating on like a small pool of guys. Like these are the guys you want to get over. Yes, there's a huge roster. You can't please everybody. People do fall by the wayside. I'd love to see more Miro on TV, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. He's picked the right guys right now, and yeah, long may it continue.
Yes, he's on the right path right now. I said, like, since the beginning of December, this has been like the best 5-week stretch for AEW in a very long time when it comes to Dynamite. And a lot of that, man, sorry, like you said, the sound mixer for the crowds, it has that rock party type of vibe that it originally had for Dynamite back in 2019, 2020.
Definitely.
Well, ahead of Wednesday's Dynamite, we got some major news, or so we thought, from Steve Mulhausen of DAZN. He had a report on Mercedes Mone's status with AEW, and he tweeted saying that Mercedes Venado will be Saraya's partner next week on AEW Dynamite in Los Angeles against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Couldn't announce or make a major hint due to her being still under contract to WWE until the beginning of 2023. But according to Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio, Mone is not expected to sign with AEW and will not be in Los Angeles next week. Mercedes reportedly doesn't want to make a long-term commitment, which is what an AEW deal would be. Mercedes has been rumored to be Saraya's partner against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter on next week's Dynamite, but Meltzer said that he heard from people in the match that Mercedes will not be involved. He also noted that AEW had to announce something this week in order to let fans know she wouldn't be there. WWE is reportedly under the impression that she will return to them after she wrestles her matches for New Japan Pro Wrestling and gets this out of her system. She is also contracted.
Same way Dean Ambrose returned, right?
They did say that too. They did say he just got to get this out of his system. He'll be back for a few matches. She is contracted for NJPW for a few matches, but if she signed with AEW, it would be minimum of 3 years, and she may not want to make that commitment. Do you foresee, Benno, Mercedes Mone appearing for AEW in 2023?
I think so, yeah. I think even if that's true about not wanting a long-term deal, I think Tony's not going to be able to help himself. I think the gimmick's going to help. What is she, the CEO? I mean, that fits in.
Yes.
Tony loves a good money, power-related gimmick. You can join Leo Rush and the Trustbusters and Matt Hardy and Andrade and Rush and Mark Sterling. Fight over contracts. You can imagine that vignette on a Rampage coming. Never mind the other people she could work with, Jade maybe. But no, I think it happens. I think it's very interesting seeing these conflicting reports because I genuinely thought it was guaranteed. I wouldn't bring her in as Paige's partner. I'm not sure if a tag match is the best way to debut her, but I thought it was a lot. I definitely have more doubt now, but I do think we'll see it in some form. I think it's got to happen. We've got to hear Chris Cross. We've got to hear that on a Dynamite. Like it's got to come. Let's hope she brings the music with her.
And I will say, I think that AEW did a good job with those segments because I'm sorry, like that the sheet of facial expressions when Tony Storm, because fans out there were making that face. So to have someone on the screen making that face where she calls Tony Storm a tag team partner, I felt like they executed that so good, so well.
Yeah.
Listen,
they've added some doubt now, which is good.
Yeah,
I appreciate the effort AEW and Dave Meltzer are putting to try and make this not seem so obvious, but it's gonna happen. She's gonna be there Wednesday. I mean, why is Britt Baker calling herself the boss? Why is that in the script?
True.
This is true, and there's still the element of how this whole feud started with Britt giving Saraya the front row seat in the LA Forum, and we could have maybe a promo where Saraya says, "I gave that ticket to someone." And that's how they debut her. Since there are people like Benno who believe that the tag team match wasn't the best debut for her, they could just have her appear as the debut. Now that they have announced Toni Storm as the tag team partner.
And listen, even if Toni can't get her long term, it's worth the investment. Whatever you could get her for, bring her in there and use her star power.
Totally.
Yes. We got a Chase who says, laugh my fucking ass off. Triple H just thinks Mercedes is a teenager going through a phase. That's how it legitimately sounds. Like, she's just going through a phase. She just has to get this out of her system. Working in the Japan. It's like, she'll be back. Don't worry, guys. We got this.
I feel there was somebody else besides Moxley that this also happened with.
I think it was Danielson. When he left, they was like, oh, he's just gonna go to New Japan. He's gonna get that out of his system. We couldn't get the deal, so he's gonna go work there, and he'll be back. And then he shows up at All Out.
Still hasn't worked one New Japan match.
No, not yet. Not yet. He was waiting for the clap crowds to end. He did make that clear too. But the Young Bucks are reportedly also in a kind of a contract type of discussion period, according to a new report. According to Fightful Select, the AEW EVPs and former two-time tag team champions have been in talks with the company about new contracts. There's no word on whether the contracts have been signed or what the details are surrounding, but the locker room has been aware of the negotiations. The Bucks were said to have signed 4-year deals back in October of 2019 on an episode of Being the Elite. Several sources have indicated to the site that the Bucks have been talking with All Elite Wrestling about new contracts that would keep them in the company for quite some time. But again, no details or terms have been learned as of yet. However, it was noted in the latest Wrestling Observer Radio that the pair aren't actively negotiating with the company. According to Dave Meltzer, AEW has reached out to the two about a new deal, but talks haven't officially started and they are not close to an agreement just yet. However, AEW wants to keep the Bucks and lock them in with multi-year contracts. It was acknowledged backstage that they should begin talks very soon. And of course, speaking of the Young Bucks, if we're talking about Young Bucks, we're talking about the Elite. We gotta talk about their best friend in the world, their favorite person in the world, CM Punk. Because he's
can I say one thing about the contract thing?
Yeah,
they shouldn't sign anything until AEW gets their TV deal. If they're smart, they should wait.
Yeah,
and they should wait to see what happens with WWE as well.
Yeah, because both companies are going to be negotiating this year. So yeah, it would be smart of them to wait it out until they get their new rights there, or at least they hear something about it. I do agree with that. But yes, CM Punk has found himself back into the headlines following Dax Hardwood's new FTR podcast. On the first episode of the podcast, Hardwood detailed the night of Brawl Out and how he learned what happened from CM Punk directly. Dax also made a public plea for CM Punk and the Elite to work things out. Punk's AEW status has been in question following the media scrum after AEW All Out and the backstage altercation that occurred soon after. Dax said, "This is my to all four guys. Please find a way to make it work. If we can make it work, we can set up the future of professional wrestling for a long time, and we can change the course of professional wrestling for a very long time. When you think about it, unselfishly, we're doing this for 20, 30 years down the road, so guys and girls can make a living, have that alternative." According to the last Friday's Wrestling Observer newsletter, several people in AEW do not feel the same as Hardwood. The report notes that several of the top guys, including Chris Jericho, have told others they will make sure Punk doesn't return to the company. The decision will ultimately be up to Tony Khan and won't be made until Punk is medically cleared in 5 to 6 months. In fact, on last Sunday's Wrestling Observer Radio, it was noted that there were several people backstage in AEW who were not happy with Hardwood's comments at all. In the latest Observer newsletter, Meltzer discussed why he believes CM Punk may be in a stronger position to make an AEW return, though, than people believe. He noted that, and I quote, "Punk posted on Instagram a photo with him with FTR, as well as pushing his #2 merch sales and a list of the most watched YouTube videos from AEW in 2022, of which he was in many of them, including the top 2. The unique part of this story is that the decision would likely be a benefit to Punk Punk, as would failing business numbers, because Punk's volume will be the idea he could get numbers back up during what would be a contract year as far as the TV rights negotiations. In theory, he should be good to go by April or May after his tricep surgery, and that would also be around the time FTR's contracts expire. We've already had FTR come out and said they're going to take a year off when their contracts expire in April 2023. Is FTR angling for also them to talk to CM Punk? We don't know, but Benno, what do you think about all of this as far as Punk seems to be trying to kind of angle himself back for a return with his social media posts?
Yeah, he's definitely trolling, but also I think there's some truth behind it. Like anytime that I've got notifications set on Instagram when Punk posts a story, because I can never wait for what comes next. Listen, I'm an admitted, huge CM Punk fan. He's probably my favorite wrestler of all time. I think a lot of things can be true. It's absolutely true that I think Tony Khan did the right thing back in the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and at least for a time, he was injured anyway, pushing CM Punk out of sight, out of mind. I do believe, there are people backstage that don't like CM Punk. Chris Jericho is making that clear. I'm sure there's a lot of young wrestlers that do as well. And at the end of the day, he is their biggest money draw. He is, for my money, one of the best of all time. I think you try. Maybe it doesn't work out. At the very least, you try and get the Bucks and Kenny and Punk in a room if they haven't tried already, and see if you can soothe those wounds. If you can do that, I think the rest of the roster might come along, or at least enough of them to justify bringing Punk back. I think it's worth a try, but I am biased as a huge Punk fan. It is something I want to see, and yeah, it would be the cherry on top to all of the other good things we've seen in AEW so far this year.
What do you think, Rob?
Punk heard the rumblings. Vince McMahon returning. He's like, shit, I'm ready to get back to work. I'm ready to work for AEW.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how everything changed around the 27th of December. That's weird. All of that's very weird. Very weird timing, huh?
That FTR year off might not happen.
I don't know anymore. I think this is all kind of angling in a way that, I agree with Benno that they should at least try, because the biggest matchup AEW can offer at this point between people that they currently have under contract is either CM Punk versus Kenny Omega or the Elite versus FTR and CM Punk. That's the two biggest matches that they could give us that people would instantly buy a ticket, buy a pay-per-view to see.
And
TV
watch
negotiations this year as well. Yeah, TV negotiations coming up this year. You need that. If there's a quick fix to get them from the 800,000s to closer to 1 million again and get that demo up too, it's CM Punk. What other card have we got to play?
All CM Punk. Yeah, CM Punk numbers were better when he was around. This show Wednesday, this show better do 1 million viewers. It better. Come on.
Yeah.
It better at least be above 900. Like, if it's a below 900, it's probably the biggest disappointment in the ratings that they've ever occurred in 4 years. AEW Rampage was last night, along with Battle of the Belts 5. So we'll just go through both of them very quickly. The show Rampage was first with Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley defeating Top Flight in a terrific opener in front of that molten hot Portland crowd that made everything on this show even better. We got a brilliant promo from Hangman Adam Page saying he has officially been cleared for Wednesday against Moxley. Great promo here by a Hangman, reminding folks that he might be one of the better talkers in AEW, honestly. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter beat the Renegade Twins in a match that I thought had no right to be as good as it was. House of Black had one of their best promos yet, discussing how Eddie Kingston used to be sadistic and they want the old Eddie back, and that he's sick and they are the cure. And then Darby Allin defeated Mike Bennett in a good main event to retain the TNT Championship. With this Portland crowd, this might be one of the greatest episodes of Rampage of all time. Like, this flew by. It was an hour long, but it felt like 20 minutes with all the great stuff that was going on throughout this show. And then they followed up with AEW Battle of the Belts 5. The Acclaimed once again beat Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal in a no-holds-barred match to retain the AEW World Tag Team titles. Eddie Kingston and Ortiz challenged House of Black for next Friday on Rampage in LA. Jade Cargill had arguably one of her better singles matches in a while against Sky Blue to retain the TBS Championship. and Orange Cassidy beat Kip Sabian in a good main event to retain the AEW All-Atlantic Championship. Like I said, this was a blast of 2 hours to spend. What did you guys think were like the biggest highlights from the 2 hours of AEW last night?
Yeah, I loved it. I was up late in the UK watching it, 5 a.m. And this finished, but I did manage to make it to the end. Yeah, I think the biggest highlight's got to be Top Flight at Moxley and Danielson. Like, talk about a match that just caught me by surprise. Really, I think I do like Top Flight, but I know there's been mixed results with them on TV lately. There was that particularly weak match. I think it was Darius against Moxley on Dynamite a couple of weeks ago that kind of died a death. This crowd wouldn't allow that to happen, and the work in it was top class as well. Like, this crowd, like you said, one of the best crowds in Rampage history. Arguably should have been a Dynamite crowd. Like, you only get one first time, don't you, in towns, and it's almost a bit of a shame. But they elevated everything on this show, and made Rampage feel must watch for the first time in a long while. And I thought that was probably the highlight. I enjoyed Darby and Mike Bennett. Mike Bennett's a good utility player, even if his use has been weird and sporadic in AEW so far. So I enjoyed that as well. And what another quick shout out, Acclaimed and Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal again. As much as I enjoyed the Dynamite match, I enjoyed them running it back here as well. It was like watching in the UK. We have like family shows where the work isn't taken too seriously. It's a crowd full of kids, and it's a lot of wrestlers doing bouye spots, and it's very theatre, very pantomime. That's what Jeff Jarrett felt like here. He's a British panto villain, just getting it up and being awesome. I really enjoyed that as well, and I never thought I'd enjoy this as a program. It's worked really well. Lots of highlights, to be honest.
I feel like everybody played their role so well in that match. Like, I thought Santam Singh was one of the best he's ever looked with that double choke slam, and then choke slam and Mike Posey, and then you had Sanjay with the referee shirt. Like, everybody played their role so well in that matchup. But I agree, that Portland crowd, one of the best crowds AEW's been in front of, because they just elevated everything. The Renegade Twins and Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Like, when you saw that match be announced, you were like, oh, that's like a 3-minute squash. It got 8 minutes, and that crowd and the Renegade Twins have improved quite a bit as well from working on AEW Dark, it seems. So yeah, and I do also love one thing I've been noticing over the last like month and a half is how connected now Dynamite is to Rampage. It used to be like Rampage where like the lost children, the people that didn't make it on to Dynamite. Now you've been seeing more of Moxley over there. You saw Danielson this week. They've been having Darby on there and Orange Cassidy. And then you've been seeing the Moxley Hangman feud kind of develop on both Dynamite and Rampage. You had Hayter and Britt getting a warm-up win before their match on Dynamite. They need more of that, of connecting both shows.
That's the thing. It's like I'm not as high on like big story beats happening on Rampage, because as much as you want to make Rampage important, most people are watching Dynamite, and stories can lose things when that happens. But there's no reason not to throw the odd Moxley singles match we've been seeing, or remember that period when we were getting a lot of Bryan and Punk singles matches to open Rampage, exhibition type matches to use that star power to draw people in. I think that's probably the formula.
100% correct in that remark for sure. We got you, boy Blue, saying I appreciate you guys so much. I'm at work trying not to fall asleep on the clock, and y'all got me cracking up. We try our best, man. We try our best. We also got Steven Chambers, who says Punk comeback and viewers will go up to close to 1 million. I think it's the smartest, kind of quickest solution to get the ratings back up.
Paying them anyway. Like, if you're gonna pay that wage, why not?
Absolutely. You're paying them to be around, and you're paying them not.
You're going to piss off Chris Jericho.
We can't. we can't upset the Ocho.
It's January 7th, not January 6th, but still, fuck Jericho and his wife.
Oh my goodness.
The only note I have following AEW Battle of the Belts and Rampage was the Wrestling Observer newsletter had an update on AEW's future plans for Konosuke Takeshita, who officially signed with the company back in November. Takeshita has mostly been on AEW Dark since then, only appearing on Dynamite or Rampage to lose the top stars. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, however, there are significant plans to push Takeshita as a top-tier talent. The storyline with Don Callis scouting him on AEW AEW Dark is expected to lead to that. And of course, it was announced on Dynamite that Takeshita will go one-on-one with Bryan Danielson. And I popped so hard for this. I was like, yo, if there's anyone that Takeshita could possibly have a better match than his matches with like Moxley and Eddie Kingston and Claudio, it's Bryan. This match is going to rock.
Put Takeshita in Blackpool Combat Club. Take out Wheeler Yuta and put him in there.
Oh God, the Wheeler hate. Come on, come on. Will you stop? Will you stop?
Can we call them something else while we're at it? I don't know if you guys know, but Blackpool is a shithole. Like, Regal's gone now. We don't need it. It's like Coney Island if Coney Island was worse. Like, it's awful.
we need like the blood combat club, so it could still be the BCC or something with the B.
Yeah.
Just figure it out. Just figure it out. We got WWE Smackdown. Well, also last night, the show featured Roman Reigns snapping on Sami Zayn for his loss last week against John Cena and Kevin Owens, and for trying to be like the tribal chief by calling his shot. He was then interrupted by Kevin Owens, who said he's the real problem and Roman is just taking it out on Sami. And he then challenged Roman for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble, with Roman accepting. Later in the night, Reigns apologized to Sami for yelling at him, and then he made Zayn versus Kevin Owens for next week on SmackDown. Meanwhile, the Usos defeated Drew McIntyre and Sheamus in a very good main event to retain the undisputed WWE tag team titles. Of course, Romeo's favorite, Charlotte Flair, returned on the December 30th edition of SmackDown, defeating Ronda Rousey in quick fashion for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And she got Memphis to chant "whoop that trick" at Sonya Deville before defeating her to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. Ricochet beat Top Dollar to qualify for the Royal Rumble. A post-match, Hit Row turned heel by jumping Ricochet before Braun Strowman made the save. The Bloodline kind of were the highlight of this show. It's one of the best stories WWE has ever had at this point. Romeo, what did you think about the latest development with Roman now showing more signs of anger and frustration with Sami Zayn here?
I did not see last night, but it sure sounds like Roman Reigns was the MVP of the show.
Or Sammy's facial expressions when like it was very like the scene in the ring when Roman starts barking at Sami. They were all like the Usos and Paul were all standing by Sami, but as soon as Roman started barking, they all moved away. So it was very much a foreshadowing of what's going to happen when they eventually turn against Sami.
It's awesome. It's the best storyline in WWE going right now.
Yeah, you said before it was the highlight of SmackDown. I mean, that's an evergreen statement, isn't it? It's the highlight every week. It's awesome. So the only thing I wonder about is, like, I assume, obviously, Owens Reigns at Rumble leads to them turning on Zayn. It's probably got to come soon. But, like, you'd want it to be a big match in Montreal. That's not far away. That's not far after the Rumble as well. I'm wondering where this Roman-Sami match is going to happen. If it's going to be there, they're probably going to have to get a move on. And it's been great watching the story, progress slowly, but they're going to have to get to that match at some point. I don't think it's going to be at WrestleMania. So I think I'd expect big development soon.
Yeah, maybe it is next week when if Kevin Owens defeats Sami Zayn, maybe that's the turn. I was thinking when he had him there and he was like, "Oh, you have a chance to redeem yourself." I think the move, because Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns have raced so many times at the Royal Rumble. They first in 2017 in the same building that 2023 is going to be, the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. You had them in the Thunderdome in 2021, and then you have them here the third time. You got to have something different. They have done a great job of each time it's been a different story going in, but the key to the story is Sami Zayn. I think Zayn needs to be the special guest referee for this match.
Yeah, you could do the turn there at the Rumble then, maybe. Yeah. I just wonder, it's Montreal. I wonder they get to. Maybe they do something where Sammy's off TV for a while. Owens needs a partner and he shows up in Montreal. Maybe the tickets are already sold. You could maybe do that. But I'm so excited. It's a WWE storyline and we care about it to this degree. It's great, isn't it?
That
Crazy.
moment where he aligns with Kevin Owens has to be in Montreal somehow, some way.
Yeah, we need the hug in front of
Yeah.
the Montreal fans. That's them hugging it out and stuff. On Thursday, we got some rather big news when it comes to WWE, as first reported by the good brother Alex McCarthy of Daily Mail. WWE has announced that this year's Money in the Bank event will take place at the O2 in London, England. It happens on July 1st, a Saturday. This will be the first WWE pay-per-view in London since Insurrection in 2002. So the real question is, Benno, are you going?
Nah, maybe. The tickets are expensive. I might go to Rev Pro. They're running it in the afternoon, the 2 days before. I'm saving my money for Forbidden Door if they come over. I didn't do Clash of the Castle, and to be honest, I was, regretting not going that Sheamus Gunther match. Definitely, maybe a regret that. But I guess we'll see.
How were the prices for
that? Not as high as this, but it's still what the thing with there is. A lot of people got upgraded to better seats who played the cheap prices, so maybe that could happen again. But this is London, so probably not. But yeah, I mean, it's an obvious move because the Cardiff crowd were so hot. It feels soon for them to come back, which is why I suspect shenanigans. But I think it'll be a big weekend in the UK. Progress will run, Rev Pro will run. There'll be other shows around it. It'll be like our own mini WrestleMania weekend.
That's
so
gonna be fun.
it'll be good. Be good for the indies.
Yeah, that's really dope. PW Insider, and we have a couple of this last notes are about people returning to WWE. Basically, PW Insider reports that William Regal is officially back in WWE, working at his new position. He started on January 2nd back with the company. Regal was released from the company in January of last year before heading to AEW in March. And towards the end of the year, Tony Khan let him out of his deal so he could go back and work with his son, NXT's Charlie Dempsey. Regal will not be allowed to appear on TV for 1 year, and PW Insider reported that William Regal worked backstage at last night's edition of WWE Smackdown at the FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. Speaking of the return, Charlotte Flair, like we said before, is the new SmackDown Women's Champion after returning on last week's SmackDown. In the latest Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer noted that this was not the original plan for Flair's comeback. It was reported last month that WWE was scripting Flair's return, although Dave Meltzer added that she was supposed to come back before that. The original plan was for Flair to return during the summer, but that never happened. Like Romeo said earlier, man, Triple H was trying to appease his daddy before he came back. He's like, come on, man. I got this. See, I could do the moves you would do. And then speaking of that, December 30th SmackDown, John Cena made his long-awaited return. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that the booking of John Cena for his return match on last week's episode of SmackDown was very carefully done. Cena teamed with Kevin Owens to defeat Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn after KO pinned the honorary Uce. Cena hadn't wrestled since SummerSlam 2021, so the idea was to make sure he was protected. That's why he had limited ring time in the match, and due to the match being hyped on NFL on Fox broadcast, the idea was that Cena had to look strong and hit his finish. And of course, that SmackDown episode was the highest rated episode for WWE SmackDown in 2 years since the NFL lead-in in December 2020. So that John Cena calling card right there, the drawing power is still there, and I don't think there's anyone that can match Cena for WWE as of right now.
No. Him versus Cody WrestleMania. That's what I want. If we're not getting Cody Roman,
I'd be down for that. I'll be down for Cena and Logan Paul has also been discussed. I'd be down for that nonsense.
Cena Austin.
Yeah,
that's an option too. I mean, you got to get those dream matches out the way when you can. That is for sure. WWE Raw this week, they did 1.605 million viewers. The show featured Austin Theory defeating Seth Rollins in a damn good main event to retain the United States Championship. Alexa Bliss went all crazy again after being haunted by Uncle Howdy Mass and the Wyatt logo to cause a DQ by attacking the referee, and then Bianca Belair bloodying her in their Raw Women's title match. Damage Control beat Becky Lynch and Meacham in tag team action, once again upsetting Becky Lynch with Damage Control getting the better of her. And the Bloodline attempted to take over once again on Monday Night Raw when Solo Sikoa and beat Elias in a Music City street fight, while Sami Zayn and the Usos defeated Kevin Owens and the Street Profits in 6-man tag team action. You said you enjoyed this week's show. What did you think, Romeo?
I don't mind the Alexa Bliss stuff. I thought Theory and Rollins had the match of the year for about what, couple days or something.
I'm sorry, Nakamura and Great Muta was better.
That happened this year? Oh yeah,
that happened. Yeah, January 1st. That was January 1st. That was like the very first match I watched of the new year.
All right, you got it. It's gone anyways now.
Yes, it's way down the list now after a couple more days. As previously reported, Naomi is listed on the active WWE roster on their website, although she has walked out of the company in May. And according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Naomi is still in talks to return to the company. However, nothing has been signed as of this week. Naomi was recently spotted in Japan to support Mercedes Mone, but does not have a deal there at this time. I should have named the episode Mone. WWE NXT this week, they actually had a decent show, even though no one was talking about it by the time I woke up after sleeping through NXT to get ready for Wrestle Kingdom. The show featured final hype for next week's New Year's Evil special, with Braun Breaker standing tall over Grayson Waller ahead of their NXT championship match. You also had Axiom beat Trick Williams in a pretty decent match, and Carmelo Hayes defeated defeated Apollo Crews in a very good bout as well. Going back to 2022, yes, we're gonna go back in the time machine, because I gotta ask our star rating expert here from Gravel app. I want to know what the people rated my final 5-star match of 2022, because let's talk about Stardom Dream Queendom 3 that was on December 29th, featuring 5-star Grand Prix winner Julia defeating Shuri in a blistering, tremendous main event to win the World of Stardom Championship. You also had Saya Kamatani beat Haruka Yumasaki to retain the Wonder of Stardom Championship. 7-Up beat Melitaire to win the Goddess of Stardom tag team titles. Prominence also beat Uedo Tai to win the Artist of Stardom Trios Championships. And Kairi and Yatami Hayashita went to a 15-minute time limit draw in a very good matchup between two of the top stars for Stardom on this show here. So of course we're going to get a rematch in the new year, but Shuri versus Julia was my women's match of the year. It came late. It overshot Shuri versus Yutami Hayashita from Gold Rush. So, Benno, I want to ask you, what did the Gravel app people rate this match of Shuri and Julia?
4.67. A lot of 5 stars in there, a lot of 4.75 stars, and a few 4.5 striking it down. But that's an incredible rating. That is top 10 match of the year level. And that's off a fair amount of ratings as well. I think a lot of people maybe parachuted in for this big show from Stardom.
I appreciate it, man. I'm really enjoying Stardom. I did a lot of catching up at the end of the year to watch some of their great matches, so I can have more of a comprehensive of the year, kind of seeing their greatness. And Stardom, honestly, it was my promotion of the year, because I felt like they had not like a 2017 New Japan year, more like a 2015, 2016 New Japan year, where I think 2023 is going to be bigger for them, because you got probably Mercedes Mone showing up on Stardom, and they're getting more attention with this whole partnership with Bushi Road in New Japan.
JP will always say it on Grapple, they are the one promotion who you look at and are actually showing growth, business wise, ticket sales wise, bringing in the right new stars. And Julia is a big factor as well. You look at her, and I saw this match myself coming out for that one. She comes across like the biggest star in the world in that promotion. So yeah, it's great to see that they are going from strength to strength.
Julia, honestly, is one of the best female wrestlers I think I've ever seen. She just has so many different skills, and I love that they got Shuri. They call her the Yoshi Brock Lesnar, because those kicks, man, she got some of the hardest kicks of anyone I've ever seen in wrestling. But
Definitely.
sticking with Japan and going to the first day of Japan, we mentioned it a bit on the show. You had Pro Wrestling Noah's New Year's Day show 2023. Actually, a really good show. It had a couple of good matches for their GHC World Championship and GHC Tag Team Championships, featuring Kenta teaming up with Marufuji for the first time in a long time in Noah. But everybody was there to see WWE's Shinsuke Nakamura defeating the Great Muta in a fitting farewell match for the legend. However, Muta then cut a highly controversial post-match interview where he said, and I quote, I'm not pulling any punches here. This man said, maybe Shinsuke is a queer. He's a queer. Maybe he's a faga. Excuse my language, but it rhymes with maggot and it starts with an F. But that is how he pronounced it. And he said, thank you, Shinsuke. I was so baffled, Benno and Romeo, that nobody was really talking about this post-show interview, because I was just like, how is this allowed? I know we're in Japan, but why is nobody talking about this?
I saw people, they misheard him, thought he called Nakamura Polly and he was being an ally. The 60-something-year-old Japanese man wasn't being an ally. Like, it was like, you know, look, we've just had the holidays. We've all got the homophobic uncle or granddad who says those things that he shouldn't say. It doesn't make them right. We should challenge them when it happens. But can you really be surprised? Like, I didn't expect he thought anything else. It was a bad taste joke, I think, is what he was trying to do. But he's going to face no comeback from it. Certainly not in Japan. Certainly not because he's Great Muta. Like, you're right, this story came and went, didn't it? It didn't really have any staying power at all, and everyone's kind of moved on and gone, probably thought he'd think
there's a baby face a couple days later, Wrestle Kingdom.
And
and the man's a cunt as well, by the way. Can we throw that out there? Like, I've never seen someone so miserable to win. Like, at Wrestle Kingdom, like, you could tell he wasn't happy that he wasn't getting the pinfall. This match with Muta, like, he tried to just storm with Nakamura, tried to storm off because he knew, he thinks in his head he should be beating Nakamura. Like, if anybody hasn't seen his reign of terror in Noah the last year or so, where they made him world heavyweight champion in 2022, like, the sooner release, the better. Like, I know he's got like 27 more retirement matches to go, but what a gobshite.
Oh man, I was just like, whoa, wait, well, why are we not saying anything? All right, well, we can move on. It was fun, the farewell match.
It was smoke and mirrors.
It felt like Nakamura had a bit more energy than he ever shows in WWE, having those Japanese fans. We got the great entrance with the violin player, so Lee England Jr. That was so good. And the finish I thought was perfect. Great finish. Like, the match wasn't all perfect, but the finish was perfect, with how many times Muta spit the mist. He spit the red mist and the green mist into Nakamura's mouth. And then when he saw him going for the third mist, he was like, nope. Let me take that, spit it in your face. Kinshasa 1, 2, 3. Great stuff. Then GCW, they had final shows to end off 2022 and start 2023. They did their Till the Infinity show, which was late on New Year's Eve, so they would have one last match to start off 2023, the first official match of the year. But the show featured, in my opinion, my highlight of the show was Maki Ito confronting GCW World Champion Nick Gage, and then defeated Ali Cash to officially become gang affiliated, and she has joined the MDK gang. Maki Ito and Nick Gage, the duo I never thought I needed and wanted. Tony Dempen beat Leon Slater in a blast of a match. She also had Two Generations going at it, with Speedball Mike Bailey defeating Tuco Scorpio in a fun bout. John Wayne Murdoch beat Sawyer Wreck in the final death match of 2022. And then GCW 56 Nights was on New Year's Day, with Maki Ito defeating Billy Stark, Sawyer Wreck, and Dark Sheik to win a 4-way match. You also had Masha Slamovich won the 30-person do or die rumble to determine the number one contender for the GCW World Championship. And post-match, Blake Christian raised her hand and then turned officially heel by kicking her in the face. Impact on Access TV, you had the show featuring Bully Ray, once again the biggest heel in Impact Wrestling. He invaded when he wasn't supposed to be there. He was sent home by Scott D'Amore. D'Amore confronted him in a heated conversation that led to D'Amore punching Bully. He responded by having his heavies, Skylar and Hodge, hold up D'Amore as Bully delivered a power driver and then a power bomb through a table to lay out the president or booker for Impact Wrestling. Chris Sabin defeated Matt Cardona in a pretty good matchup, and Taylor Wilde beat Masha Slamovich ahead of the four-way match, number one contenders match at Hard to Kill. We'll have an official Hard to Kill preview by the fellows of Blunt Impact, Chris G and Ness, coming up. I believe it's going to be both on Patreon, first for the Patreon backers, and then we will place it here on the channel so you get a proper preview for Hard to Kill. But we got to wrap things up for this edition of Tru Heel Heat with our final segment here. It is time for the first 2023 match of the week. Benno, to explain, we introduced this whole segment where we give a gold medal, silver medal, and bronze medal to the top matches of the week. For this week, though, I'm going to switch it up. I told y'all top three, but I'm going to give y'all a little bit more wiggle room because I know, there's a bunch of matches from the final week of 2022 we might want to mention from this first week of 2023. So you got a top five matches that you thought were the best from the last 2 weeks of wrestling. I will start it off here. I would say number 5, I will say the four-way IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship matchup from Wrestle Kingdom 17. I will say number 4, I would give to Swerve versus AR Fox from AEW Dynamite. Number 3, I will give to Switchblade Jay White versus Kazuchika Okada in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom 17. Number 2, I will give to my final 5-star match of 2022, Shuri versus Julia from Stardom Dream Kingdom 2. And then finally, of course, number 1, it's that. Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, Wrestle Kingdom 17, 6 stars, my second ever 6-star match that I ever rated. Benno, give us your top 5 for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a great couple of weeks just to hear you run down like everything going on in wrestling. It feels like old times again. And while there's all just constantly talking about AEW, there's other fun things happening as well in the world. But yeah, I go for my top 5. It is still AEW heavy because they've had a great week. I think 5. If I'm getting 5, I'll throw in an honorary mention for the Acclaimed against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Probably both the matches. So
yes.
One can be me 6 and one can be me 5. But the one from Dynamite, I especially enjoyed with the Jeff Jarrett strut I mentioned earlier. Number 4, Swerve and AR Fox, as you say. That Lucha Underground match is no joke, one of my favorite matches of all time. And it happened in Lucha Underground. Like, people haven't seen it, get out there and see it. It's incredible. Dante Fox against Killshot. But this was a good entry too. Like I say, lots of innovative offense. 2 guys who know each other so well. So yeah, that was 4. Mox and Brian against Top Flight. Wouldn't have expected to have a Rampage match in here. I thought they absolutely.
That's definitely my honorable mention. Yeah, that would be my honorable mention for sure. I love that match.
Yeah, just the way that built and the way the story was told within a molten crowd, incredible. Darby Allin and Samoa Joe has become one of my favorite rivalries in wrestling. Like, I thought Joe was finished. Like, some of those appearances in November, early December time, when he's coming out looking pink and exhausted by the time he made it to the ring, I was like, oh, Joe, like, I think we need to have a word here. And I love Samoa Joe, and this has felt like I know you'll feel the same. SP3 prime 2005, 2006 Samoa Joe, when he's in there with Darby
they feel like perfect opponents for each other. Like, Joe seems like he's having a great time just beating the crap out of Darby. He could do that for the rest of his career and he'd be happy.
It's been so good, an unexpected gem. And then number 1, as you say, Omega Ospreay. It's probably going to be my match of the year unless they top it later, like Romeo said.
Yes, Romeo, on you, your top 5 for the week. And of course, we want to hear from y'all as well. If you're watching, you're this far on demand, let us know in the comments down below, or let us know in the live chat if you're still with us live. Romeo, who you got?
Okay, my number 5 is the 4-way of the Junior Heavyweight Championship, IWGP. Number 4, help me with the pronunciation here, the Stardom match. How do I say their names?
Shuri
I could see
versus
that.
Julia.
Thank you. That. Number 3, Okada and Jay White. Number 2, you guys are gonna find this a little shocking, but Ospreay Omega.
Whoa. Okay.
And number 1, Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. What a moment! What a moment!
I was like, why do I think he's gonna have that 1 or 2? I was like, why did I think he was gonna have that 1 or 2? That's the pop of the night, ladies and gentlemen. You'll see that on the clips next week.
6.5 stars there.
It'd be 7 if she did that shitty cartwheel into a clothesline. She did from SmackDown that night.
God damn it, Romeo.
Sasha's getting all the heat. Charlotte deserves some.
I both hate and love Romeo so much. So on brand. That was an on brand Romeo answer right there. But
hey, you opened the door by including last year. You opened the door.
Thank you so much, Benno, for joining us. It's been too long, my good brother. So you can expect I'm probably gonna hit you up maybe a few weeks from now to get you back, because it was so much fun talking wrestling with you, because you have so much knowledge watching everything that you do. Please let the people know where they can follow you. Post Wrestling, Grapple App Podcast. Let the people know.
Oh, thank you. Always happy to be here. Always love coming. Always feel like it's a second home. Feels very similar to my podcast, which is Grapple Spotlight, where we also talk the entire week in wrestling. Myself and JP, and we get guests, a lot of friends of the show over there. So look forward to that. We should be revealing our guests for this week soon. Still doing little bits and pieces on post wrestling. Still got to justify having the hat, but it tends to be less regular now. British wrestling is where it is in the world, so we don't do many podcasts over there anymore. But other than that, catch me on Twitter at BensonRichard, and help me fight the Sasha stands. That would always be appreciated.
Benno the breadhead.
The president of the Breadhead Club. He is Benno. Yes.
Apparently an ugly British bitch as well, but what are you going to do? You know, you can't please everybody. I'd also follow Grapple App, as it says there, and get you.
Absolutely. I'm still waiting for my invite to the Grapple App podcast, because I haven't popped my cherry. Pop my cherry over there. And now that I'm watching Stardom, I'm pushing the Stardom agenda in 2023. Romeo,
steal it all. I guess seen Andrew Thompson over here, all kinds. You know, we need to got a little civil war going on. But yeah,
absolutely. We'll work everybody into a shoot, and they'll think we're really feuding. Romeo, please let the people know where they can follow you, man. You're like the face of the channel, so let the people know.
Oh, by the way, I have the winner here of the season 2 prediction contest on Patreon. Do you want to know who the top 3 for season 2 were? Yes, number 3 was me, unfortunately. Number 2 was you, SP3.
No,
Nick Jackson won by 1 more correct guess than you.
yo, because I remember you put the standings, and I was like, I'm 3 away. I was like, all I need is 4 answers more than him, and I got 2 instead of 4. Oh,
just missed it. Sorry, Nick Jackson.
It's because I changed my pick. It's because I changed those 2 picks, because I did predict Zack Sabre Jr. to beat Narita.
Oh,
when you asked me, I said Narita
was gonna win. Come on, Zack Sabre Jr.
And then I also on the preview made the argument for Cash 2 to beat Leo, and I'm disgusted by myself right now. You just made me so upset. Let the people know where they can.
Tru Heel Romeo, Twitter and Instagram, right here on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. We'll have a Raw watch along, NXT Dynamite. That's going to be crazy on Wednesday. Join us for all that. Friday Night Warriors next week for SmackDown and Impact. Hard to Kill is on a Friday, not a Saturday, just so you guys know. And catch me on the sports channel tonight. Jaguars Titans, Tru Heel Heat Sports playoff game, and tomorrow all the football and everything. Join us.
Yes, got plenty of great content coming up between Tru Heel Heat Sports and Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel right here. So subscribe over there, THH Sports. We're trying to grow, trying to hit 300 subscribers over there. Very close to hitting that goal over there as well. Twitch.tv/Tru Heel Heat Gaming. We're going to get some more gaming in the new year, but every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, you got Blunt Impact over there. You can watch it with Ness and Chris watching Impact on Access TV. Follow me on the Twitter machine at Tru Heel SP3. Follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Tru Heel Heat. If you want to be a bigger supporter of what we do here, you want to give back to the contributors for the content we give you here, patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat is the best place to do that. $3 a month. You got exclusive content. Right now, you got SP3's Raw Report up there. Later today, we'll have myself and Jay News reviewing the Great Muta and Shinsuke Nakamura match in depth, and we will talk in depth about that promo as well from Muta afterwards. So stay tuned for that on the Patreon. But thank you so much to everyone who joining us. Remember to drop the thumbs up on this video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you're new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. For our very special guest, Benno, for Romeo, it is me, your Tru Heel Phenom, SP3. This has been Tru Heel Heat 207, the big clap back. Vince is back. We are signing off until next time.
Money.
Money.